Hi, welcome back guys. This is your sensei, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Naruto Was Trained by Sasori. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Slowly and carefully, Sasori rose to his feet and inspected the battlefield. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't a battlefield so much as a monument to his defeat, a plain of broken puppets mocking him with its existence. Oh, there was plenty of dead flesh among the puppets, but these people had never been more than puppets themselves. Their master was still out there, very much alive. Alive and, in all likelihood, laughing at Sasori. The puppeteer maneuvered throughout the battlefield, inspecting the remains. Most of the puppets were damaged to the point where they weren't worth repairing, and since one of the downsides to using human puppets was that their parts were not interchangeable, he couldn't salvage pieces of them either. He would have to start over. When he finally reached the remains of Haruko and found it utterly destroyed, his control over his emotions slipped for a moment and he frowned. Haruko was his favorite puppet, second only to the third Kasage. And now it was gone, along with the rest of his collection. Just like that, he absent-mindedly fingered the storage scroll that held his last surviving human puppet. He didn't know whether it was fortunate or irritating that he didn't have the opportunity to bring out the Kasage into the fray. Perhaps the battle would have turned out differently if he did, or maybe he would simply end up losing everything. Orochimaru was going to pay for this. Not that he could get back at the man in the foreseeable future, it would take years to replenish his collection even under ideal conditions. As much as he wanted to track down Orochimaru immediately, he had no choice but to admit he had no chance against the man right now. And besides, the battle nicely illustrated that Sasori's battle strategy has a major weakness when employed against Orochimaru, an over-reliance on poisons. Sasori didn't consider it much of a weakness till now. No one had ever survived the poison he coats his weapons with, even hidden could be effectively neutralized with it, so Sasori's strategy mostly came down to showering the area with as many attacks as possible, since every hit was lethal. It was a strategy that worked flawlessly. Until now, Orochimaru was immune. As a being made of flesh and blood, Orochimaru should have been affected, but Orochimaru clearly wasn't human anymore. To add insult to injury, the demonic-looking fodder that Orochimaru used to distract him was highly resistant to Sasori's poison as well. It took several minutes for the poison to start seriously affecting them, plenty of time to make an utter nuisance of themselves. Fighting Orochimaru one-on-one would have been challenging enough by itself, so this just cemented the Snake Sanin's victory. If Orochimaru knew Sasori had turned himself into a puppet, he would have probably died in that battle. Then again, Orochimaru didn't seem all that interested in making sure Sasori was dead for sure. No matter, the Snake Summoner would regret his sloppiness eventually, because Sasori would have his revenge, even if it was the last thing he ever did. The question was, what should he do now, in the short term? He had no intention of going back to Akatsuki. He had allowed his partner, one that Leader specifically instructed him to watch closely for treachery, to defect. Leader was never very understanding of failure, so coming before him in this sort of vulnerable state was a big no-no. Before he even thinks of going back, he needs to replenish his strength and find some way make up for this debacle. In the meantime, it would best if he stays dead for a while. He found a suitable-looking corpse from among the fodder Orochimaru used, stripped him of anything that might tie him to Orochimaru, and dressed him in clothes from one of the puppets. Hopefully whomever Leader sends won't look too closely. Most of them were kill and smash type of people anyway, not investigators. He took the Akatsuki ring off his finger and put it on the corpse. The ring was technically supposed to be impossible to remove, except in death, but Sasori didn't have any flesh for the ring to bind to, so he could remove it as he pleased. As far as he knew, no one knew this, so this setup should look pretty convincing. After a moment's thought, he took two other corpses and sealed them away into a storage scroll. If he was going to go after Orochimaru, he needed to find out what was the deal with the demonic appearances of his subordinates, and the nature of their strange abilities. It looked almost like a bloodline limit of sorts. Now all he needed was a place to lie low in. His appearance shouldn't be much of a problem. His blade wings could be sealed away in the storage seals on his back, and moderately heavy clothing should hide other signs of his puppet nature. He felt vulnerable without his armor puppet, but walking around in one would be far too distinctive if he wanted to stay inconspicuous. His best bet was to leverage his spy network, but this was fraught with perils. While his contacts were trustworthy enough for information-gathering purposes, he was loath to rely on them in a sensitive time like this. And, of course, Akatsuki would surely try to salvage whatever they could of his spy network for their own purposes, so he couldn't interact with his contacts as freely as he'd like. In any case, if he was going to get back on track in a reasonable amount of time, he needed access to funds and materials. Funds weren't that much of a deal, since he had plenty stashed away exactly for these kinds of occasions, but there weren't many places where he could get the needed amount of materials without raising some eyebrows. Konoha sounded just about right. It was a ninja village, and fairly cosmopolitan one at that, so his mannerisms and activities wouldn't look too out of place. It was the most civilian-friendly ninja village, so he probably wouldn't be scrutinized too closely. Its governance was riddled with convoluted bureaucracies. Always a boon when you're trying to hide shady activities. The village has an ample supply of cheap and quality wood, so he would have no problems getting sufficient supply of puppet materials. And finally, he had a number of contacts there that could help him settle in without problems and were reasonably loyal. Yes, Konoha it is. Break. You are sure of this? Asked Pain. We have retrieved Sasori's ring off one of the corpses, intoned Itachi emotionlessly. Pain stared on him passively. No one knew what Sasori looked like beneath that armor puppet he always wore, so it could be a trick of some sort. But he doubted it. The puppeteer would have never have willingly trashed his entire collection, no matter what his goal was. And Orochimaru? Asked Pain. His current location is unknown. He cut off his finger to foil the pursuit, so we cannot track him through the ring. Pain continued to watch the rain fall over the city, keeping his back turned to Itachi. It was always a possibility, of course, but he had counted on members' reluctance to maim themselves. Orochimaru is the last person he's considered capable of it. After all, several hand seals were now impossible to the snake Sannin, and thus a whole range of techniques as well. It was well known that mastering every jutsu in the world was Orochimaru's obsession. If he went this far, it meant that Orochimaru had found a way to render the injury irrelevant. Damage? Asked Pain more forcefully. Orochimaru took a large corpus of research notes with him when he left, said Itachi, as well as several important researchers. Many projects will have to start over from scratch. Fortunately, Pain had already taken precautions against this happening. He had his reservations against Orochimaru since day one, and had already established parallel teams for all crucial projects. No, there was a lot more serious issue at hand. What about Sasori's spy network? The slight hesitation before Itachi started speaking again told Pain immediately it was just as bad as he suspected. I'm afraid it will be difficult to assume control of Sasori's network without his guidance. Whatever means Sasori used to establish and maintain his network were lost along with him. Merely identifying the agents in question is proving to be a difficult and time-consuming process. Additionally, those agents we contacted are almost without fail loyal to Sasori, not Akatsuki as such. Significant efforts will have to be expended into making them accept us as their new employers. We will salvage what we can, but our information-gathering effort will be severely restricted in the foreseeable future. Pain could help but frown. This was a significant setback. There was very few spymasters of Sasori's caliber that weren't aligned with one of the major villages, and their services were exorbitantly expensive. Somehow, Sasori was able to maintain a spy network as extensive as that of a major ninja village, for a quarter of the cost, a feat that not even Pain could replicate. That is all. Leave now. Pain listened absent-mindedly to Itachi's receding footsteps as he thought about his next actions. This changes everything. It wasn't enough to stop him, not by a long shot, but it was aggravating to face such an hurdle nevertheless. Orochimaru would have to be made an example of course. Once the new spy network was up and running, he would find out everything he could about Orochimaru's bases and research facilities, and destroy them. Personally, break it. It is a pleasure to have you here, Sasori-sama. Kakashi Kabuto couldn't help but stare at the red-headed teenager sitting in front of him. There was no way, absolutely no way, that the terrifying and merciless Sasori of the Red Sands, before whom Kabuto had trembled in fear as a little boy, could be this young. It went against some basic facts about Sasori that Kabuto knew about. The teenager in front of him was at most 16, and probably younger. Younger than Kabuto, in any case. Oblivious to Kabuto's doubts, the boy that claimed to be Sasori didn't even bother to look up from the documents he was studying. That at least was Sasori-like. Looking at the boy's face, Kabuto could not see so much as a hint of emotion on it, despite being exceptionally skilled at reading people. There was no unconscious tics, no frowns or lip pursing, not even his eyes wandered around. The boy's face was as lifeless as, oh, wow, is there something wrong? Asked Sasori. No, everything's fine, Sasori-sama, said Kabuto cheerily. I just realized something, that's all. Is the information I gathered satisfactory? More or less, said Sasori, finally deigning to look Kabuto in the eyes. Now, can I trust you, Kabuto? It was in that exact moment that the last doubt that this is really Sasori melted away in Kabuto's mind. That serene expression filled with unflinching confidence. He could never lie to this man, he just didn't have the skill. Sasori's eyes peered into his soul, stripping away any deception he might endeavor to erect and leaving his true nature bare before the puppet master. Always, Sasori-sama, said Kabuto seriously. Up until recently, began Sasori, I had been a member of a certain organization called Akatsuki. I worked in a two-man cell with a man called Orochimaru. Of the Leaf? Asked Kabuto. Of the Leaf, confirmed Sasori. Originally, I had sent you here to get medic nin training so that you could infiltrate Orochimaru's inner circle. He is always looking for medic nins willing to participate in his experiments. However, I am no longer interested in spying on Orochimaru. I intend to destroy him. Kabuto could read between the lines. He was a spy, after all. Orochimaru defeated Sasori rather soundly, and now the puppeteer wanted revenge. Not that Kabuto was complaining. While he wasn't the squeamish type, he didn't really know how he would put up with a monster like Orochimaru. As far as everyone is concerned, I'm dead, continued Sasori, and I'd like it to stay that way. I have much in the way of preparations before I can make my move, perhaps years, so I will make Konoha my temporary base of operations till then. You, on the other hand, will have a task of your own to accomplish. Sasori took out what was probably a storage scroll and placed it in front of Kabuto. The scroll contains 2 corpses of Orochimaru's underlings, said Sasori. They seem to have abilities reminiscent of a bloodline limit. I want you to use your medical knowledge and tell me everything you can about them. Do not fail me, Kabuto. I won't, Sasori-sama. I won't. Break. Uzumaki Naruto walked aimlessly through the streets of Konoha, his orange jumpsuit shining brightly as it reflected the rays of the midday sun. This in itself was nothing unusual. Naruto often walked aimlessly through Konoha. His apartment was really just a place to sleep over and stash what few belongings he had, and he was always outside if he could help it. No, the unusual part was that he was frowning. He wasn't really unhappy, just bored. It was a beautiful sunny day and he didn't have to go to the academy today, which usually meant a fun day for Blonde. But not today. He already performed every prank he could think of and, well, that's as far as his ideas to pass the time went. Oh, he could whip out some lame prank in an eye blink, but that was below him. No, a master of pranks like him does not go for quantity. If he was going to prank someone, it was going to be unique, unexpected, and absolutely hilarious. But he currently had nothing that fit that description. He briefly toyed with the idea of searching out for Sakura-chan, but she was particularly vicious yesterday, so he decided to give her some space for a while. At least until tomorrow. Is her considerate or what? Certainly more than Sasuke. So anyway, now he was thinking about what to do with himself. The frown he was wearing was what people who knew him a little better, few as they were, referred to as his thinking expression. Evidently he found the activity painful. And so, with his face firmly pointed towards her ground, his eyes squinting and his hands in his pockets, Naruto rounded a corner and collided with a red-headed teenager who was carrying a stack of wooden boards and other supplies that obstructed his vision. Both of them collapsed on their backs, and Naruto yelped as one of the boards fell on his leg. Naruto scrambled up in the blink of an eye, surveying the situation. The redhead was already up and dusting himself off, so no damage done. That was good, because Naruto just knew it would be his fault if the older boy was injured in the accident. His satisfaction deflated a little when he noticed a spilled bucket of brown paint nearby. The other boy also surveyed the situation, not sparing a single glance on Naruto. Well, crap, the boy mumbled under his breath, no doubt thinking Naruto couldn't hear him. Over the years, Naruto had noticed he had a lot better hearing than most people, but that was something he kept to himself. It's amazing what one can find out when people think you can't hear them whispering from the other side of the room. Hell, listening in on conversations was the main way he found out anything. Naruto began. Sorry about that. I was thinking and wasn't paying attention. The redhead shook his head dismissively, still not looking at Naruto, and began picking up boards. Naruto's blood began to boil. He hated being ignored. He started picking up boards to help the other boy and trying to establish eye contact along the way. When that didn't work, he started talking. Hey Red, what are you doing with these things anyway? Asked Naruto as he handed the last of the boards to the other boy. I'm opening a new shop in Konoha, the other boy said evenly. The building was in pretty bad shape, so I was going to change some floorboards and repaint the place. Oh, said Naruto. You know, you look a bit young to be a shop owner. What kind of shop is it anyway? Ninja supplies. Really? You know, I'm studying to become a ninja. You don't say, the older boy said serenely. I thought ninja are supposed to be aware of their surroundings at all times. What do you? Naruto stopped when he remembered colliding with the other boy just a few moments ago. That was a one-time thing. I'm pretty awesome actually. Just you watch, I'm going to be Hokage in a few years. The best Hokage in the history of Konoha in fact, or my name isn't Uzumaki Naruto. Believe it. The redhead finally deigned to look Naruto in the eyes. The older boy had the most serene expression Naruto had seen in a long time, and Naruto had to fight the urge to look away from the soul-penetrating eyes boring into him. In his life, Naruto only met 3 sorts of people: those who clearly disliked him and were constantly putting him down, people who were uncomfortable around him, like he was going to swallow them whole if they take their eyes off of him, and people who were friendly and supportive of his dream. The redhead before him was none of those things. His face portrayed a sort of calm confidence that told Naruto he doesn't mean a damn thing to the older boy, one way or another. It was a novel and unsettling feeling. That's a pretty grandiose proclamation, the redhead said. What exactly do you base this opinion on? It's not an opinion, protested Naruto, regaining his senses. I'm going to be the next Hokage and that's that. Oh, said the redhead calmly. So it's just unsubstantiated bullshit. The sentence was delivered in such a matter-of-factly tone that Naruto was left actually speechless for a second. Then he got angry. Shut up, he yelled. You don't know anything. I know that you're making assertions with no proof to back them up, insisting that your feelings on the matter should trump any amount of facts or common sense to the contrary. If you can't present your point of view any better than that, then why should I believe you? When I become Hokage, you'll be sorry for mocking my dream. Tried Naruto again. You'll be sorry. Everyone will have to admit they were wrong about me and acknowledge me as. What the hell is so funny? Naruto was fuming. He didn't know what it was about the red-headed teenager that made his teeth grind, seeing how he had his dream dismissed by plenty of people before, but something about his tone and manner of speaking just made him want to punch the guy in the face. And now he was laughing at him too. The redhead finally schooled his expression again. You really are delusional, aren't you? It takes more than a high position in the official hierarchy to earn people's respect. A Hokage is instated into the position because they are respected, not the other way around. You're just a loud brat who talks big. You could proclaim yourself the king of all elemental countries and nobody would give a damn. Oh yeah, while you're just a stupid civilian who don't know greatness when he sees it. Screamed Naruto. I'm going to become Hokage and nothing is going to stop me. So there, what do you say now, huh? People around them didn't even stop to stare, going about their lives as if this was a regular occurrence. And it was. Naruto had to admit it wasn't the first time he yelled something like that in the middle of the street. The red-headed teen, however, didn't scoff or sneer at Naruto or react in a way that the blonde would expect. He didn't commend him on his will of fire like the old man would, or wave him off out of annoyance like most civilians. Instead, his face suddenly got completely and utterly serious. You're such a petulant child, the redhead said calmly, and then simply turned and went on his way, leaving Naruto behind. Naruto had heard a lot of insults in his life. He had been called a failure, an idiot, a no-good brat that will never amount to anything, a dope, dead last, public disturbance, and worse. And yet, few of those affected him the way this simple sentence did. There was no trace of hostility in the other boy's voice as he said them, no underlying sense of superiority. It was as if the other boy truly believed Naruto deserved to be told this. Naruto stared at the can of spilled paint the redhead left behind for a full minute before continuing his aimless wandering, this time with a real frown on his face. Break. Naruto sat on a swing in one of the many small parks that dotted Konoha, half-heartedly pushing himself from time to time. There was nobody there except him, and the only sound that could be heard was quiet creaking of the swing. It would have probably been a rather eerie scene if he weren't used to it by now. In fact, he chose this specific swing precisely because it creaked. Ever since he was a child, he found the silence terrifying. His sensitive ears picked up all sorts of creepy sounds when things were quiet. People often spoke mean things to him under their breath when he passed by them in an empty street, thinking he couldn't hear them, and then denied they did any such thing when he called them on it. Sometimes, when things were particularly quiet, he could even hear the soft footsteps of invisible stalkers behind and around him, hiding in the trees and rooftops. It was only years later that he understood that he wasn't insane and that he simply had better ears than other people. The stalkers turned out to be ANBU that followed him around for some reason when he was a child. He would occasionally catch glimpses of their stark white masks, with their animal faces and huge black eyes, and it terrified him. These evil spirits haunted his childhood nightmares every time he closed his eyes, and it was years before he found out they were just ninjas sent to protect him. Even today, he still resented the old man somewhat for not telling him about that, and for laughing at him when a particular encounter with ANBU scared him to tears. Jerk. In any case, he was no longer terrified of silence, but he didn't like it. In silence, there was little to do but think, and Naruto didn't really want to think. Thinking inevitably led to an awful lot of questions that nobody saw fit to answer him. There wasn't much point to it, really. The way to succeed was to ignore all who wanted to bring him down and press on regardless how convincing their arguments were. The will of fire, as the old man would put it. Thinking just made you depressed and cranky. So whenever there was something bothering him, he would come to the swing. The rhythmic creaking sound soothed him, allowing him to focus on the creaking instead of pointlessly dwelling on his problems. He glanced at the nearby playground. When he first came here, there was a gaggle of children playing there, but they wanted nothing to do with him and soon left. Naruto wasn't really bothered, they were stupid anyway. Playing ninja? Yeah, right. He was going to be a real ninja, so there. It's just that he couldn't help but overhear one boy telling the others that his mother told him to stay away from Naruto because he was dangerous. It reminded him of his time at the orphanage, when he would overhear other children spreading all sorts of rubbish about him behind his back. It made him so. He clenched the chains tighter in his hands and pushed himself more firmly off the ground. As the creaking got louder and the wind started hitting his face, Naruto could feel his anger abating and his thoughts shifting elsewhere. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. He was going to become Hokage and marry Sakura-chan, and no one will speak such lies about him again. You're such a petulant child. He pressed his feet firmly into the ground and the swing came to a swift halt. This sucks, stated Naruto to no one in particular. This was all the redhead's fault. If he didn't ridicule his dream like that, he wouldn't be depressed in the first place, and he wouldn't give a damn what a bunch of brats think about him. Suddenly his face split into a devious smile and he began chuckling to himself. Didn't the guy said he was opening a new shop? And he needed it painted too. Well, surely Naruto could help out a bit in that regard. Break. It was evening when Sasori came to retrieve something from his shop, only to find the blonde boy from earlier that day painting his shop in pink and yellow flowers. Sasori never really liked flowers, such transitory things, wilting away after just a few days. But the real issue was that flowery background was not something that any self-respecting ninja supply shop would use, which was the whole point behind the kid's activities, he supposed. As stealthily as he could, Sasori approached the blonde until he was right behind him. It was surprisingly difficult, actually. The boy had good ears. What do you think you're doing to my shop? The boy jumped in surprise, dropping his brush, but didn't make a single sound. Instead, he spun around with speed that surprised Sasori, staring bug-eyed at the puppet master. Sasori's face was carefully twisted into an expression of mild irritation at the childish act of vandalism the blonde was inflicting upon him. I'm helping you out. Yeah, you said you need to paint the shop, so I thought. Sasori stared at the blonde in silence. Yet he looked that stupid to the kid. No one would believe such a transparent lie. He waited for a while for the blonde to state something else, but boy just started chuckling and rubbing the back of his head nervously, before quickly scooping up his brush and putting it behind his back, as if doing so would hide his involvement at the shop's sudden flowery motif. He looked ready to bolt at the first sign of danger, but Sasori had no intention of wasting his time by chasing a little kid around like an idiot. That's such a pathetic lie, Sasori said finally. After having been caught red-handed, you can't even admit as much and apologize like a responsible individual. Earlier today you told me you wanted people's respect, and then you do something like this. But, the blonde protested weakly, clearly not expecting this kind of interaction. Sasori supposed that curses and threats of physical violence were common responses to something like this, but Sasori would never stoop to the level of swearing, and he didn't do threats, he killed. The kid wasn't quite at the point where Sasori wanted to skewer him without warning and dump his corpse into a nearby river, but he was steadily getting there. But what? Sasori said. You just vandalized my place. You're not getting any respect that way. Vandalism, protested Naruto indignantly. This is art, man. Sasori struggled to keep his temper in check and failed, lowering his face in a threatening manner. The gesture caused the boy to take a step back and take in all available escape routes. Sasori was actually impressed at the clearly practiced reaction, and idly wondered what kind of life the kid lived if he already had an instinct like that. Art? Sasori asked in a deceptively friendly tone, his eyes boring into boy's, daring him to repeat what he just said. Why yeah, the boy answered. He swallowed heavily, clearly trying to summon his courage. It takes a lot of skill and effort to do something like this. I had to evade the patrols and find a window of opportunity long enough to finish painting the place. Bring enough paint and correct brushes and not be slowed down by everything I carried. Fit all the materials within my budget, paint everything in less than an hour, lots of things. And look how pretty the flowers are. That takes some skill. It made some twisted sort of sense. No doubt organizing something like this took a non-trivial amount of effort, and the boy clearly cared about his workmanship enough to argue with the man whose property he just vandalized. Still, at the heart of things this was just a childish prank, superbly executed or not, and Sasori wasn't going to encourage it. Yes, I bet your parents would be real proud of you, Sasori said. My parents are dead, the boy said angrily. So are mine, Sasori shot back. The point remains. The blonde grunted and backed off. Which was good, because Sasori never had much patience with the lack of parents' excuse. And it wasn't because Sasori lost his parents too, either. It's just that Sasori had lived long enough to see plenty of people whose lives were, to borrow a phrase he overheard a few days ago, utter suck-age. There were far, far worse fates in the world than losing one's parents was. It was a prank, okay, said Naruto quietly. It's what I do. I prank people. I thought everyone knew that. Sasori cocked his head to the side in a curious expression, like a bird studying a shiny object. The child was baffling, and Sasori didn't like things he didn't understand. He liked to examine them until they make sense, vivisect them if he had to. Fortunately for the boy, verbal answers should be sufficient in this case. Why do you prank people? Begun the boy. It's fun. I make people laugh. Sometimes. Really? Sasori responded. For a moment I thought it was revenge for disagreeing with you when you ran into me earlier. The blonde looked down into the ground. You were making fun of me, he protested weakly. Actually, I was just being dismissive, Sasori said. I assure you I derived no fun from berating you. I was just annoyed that some random kid ran into me, spouted a whole lot of nonsense without so much as a word of prompting from me, and then behaved like a spoiled child when I objected to his claims. I am not a spoiled child, or a petulant one, either. You love to brag, you're easily offended, and you take things personally when there's no need to. That's not what a mature person behaves like. But you dismissed my dream without thinking. Why is it impossible for me to become Hokage? I never said it was impossible, said Sasori, but you'll need to earn people's respect first before you're even considered for the position. That is no easy feat, and you are years, probably decades away from being a viable candidate. Pronouncing your intention to become Hokage to an absolute stranger, without prompting, makes you seem conceited. It would paint just about anyone in bad light, but especially someone like you, a little kid who isn't even out of academy yet. The boy shuffled in place uncomfortably, clearly at loss for a response. I will not give up. Good for you, Sasori said flatly. Now get lost before I report you for this art of yours. Sasori watched the kid as he ran into the night. The child had piqued his interest. From their exchange, and people's reactions, he got the notion that the blonde was famous somehow, yet he had no knowledge of him. He always hated being in the dark of things, so perhaps a small information-gathering endeavor is in order. He needed some time to clear his head, anyway, and how hard should it be to shadow someone like that kid? Uzumaki Naruto, was it? He glanced at his shop. No way he's scrubbing off all that paint. That's the sort of thing rookie genin were for. He'll just post a request for a D rank. Yes, Sasori had a petulant side too. Break. Ikaraku's ramen stand was Naruto's sanctuary. If there was any place he considered home, it would be that little stand, with its delicious aroma of ramen wafting through the air, the pleasant attitude of old man Tuchai, and the friendly conversations with I.M. When possible, he would time his visit so that he would be the only costumer and pretended in his mind that they were a family of sorts. So what's on your mind? I.M. asked, leaning across the counter. Nothing, said Naruto. Why? You seem upset. Naruto concentrated on his ramen bowl for a moment to buy time. It's been 3 days and he couldn't stop thinking about the red-headed shop owner. What was the deal with that guy, anyway? The guy just didn't make sense. He shook his head, banishing the thought. He came here to get his mind off the guy. Originally, he wanted to talk to the old man, since the Hokage always seemed to have an answer to all Naruto's doubts, but he was too busy this week to meet with Naruto. It was probably for the best. Why should he bother old man because of what some random shopkeeper told him? It was nothing. He was dealing with people like that all his life. Well, not quite like that. There was something strange and unnerving about the redhead, something that made his remarks strike deeper than they usually do, but Naruto couldn't pinpoint it. In fact, he was thinking about him again. Just people putting me down again, Naruto said. I'll be alright in a couple of days. Don't worry, Naruto, you'll show them all one day, I.M. said. Naruto grinned. He knew she was saying just to make him feel better, but he still appreciated the thought behind it. Damn right they will. It just gets me down every now and then, but I can handle it. Uzumaki Naruto can't be defeated that easily. He talked with I.M. for a while, with the old man Tuchai occasionally dropping into the conversation to deliver some of his own advice. They were supportive, like always, and Naruto soon found himself in a good mood again. He wished he could afford to come here every day. Or better yet, that he had someone like this waiting for him when he came back to his apartment. Instead, the only thing that waited for him was silence. But he couldn't afford to think like that. At least the apartment was 10 times better than the orphanage had been. At least the apartment was warm and dry, unlike the alleys and sewers he slept in for 2 weeks after he ran away from the orphanage. At least the nightmares that haunted him in the apartment were all in his head. He finished his last bowl, paid for his meal, and waved the Ikarakus goodbye. He knew it was about time to close down the stand, even if neither Tuchai nor I.M. come out and tell Naruto to get lost so they can go home. They were too nice for that, but Naruto didn't want to inconvenience them. He didn't really want to inconvenience anyone. So why did so many people go out of their way to inconvenience him? One more question that had no answer and was pointless to think about. He maneuvered the streets without really paying attention, every nook and cranny of the village already memorized. After a 10-minute walk he reached his destination, a small mixed goods store that was about to close soon. Good, his timing was perfect. He pushed the door and walked in without sparing a second glance to the cashier. Sometimes the store owners gave him trouble, but never when he came in a few minutes before closing. Nobody wanted to argue for 30 minutes when they could just grit their teeth, play along, and go home for the day already. He scanned the shelves quickly, taking things that looked safe. Buying food in stores was always a gamble. Every once in a while he would get terrible stomach pains and fevers after eating food he bought from them. It wasn't consistent, and it was never lethal, so he couldn't really accuse them of trying to poison him intentionally. But the fact remained that buying anything that could be easily tampered with had cost him dearly plenty of times. On top of this, he had to keep in mind that electricity went out randomly in his apartment for hours at the time, so any food he left in the freezer tended to get spoiled if it was at all spoilable. The Fire Country wasn't named such for nothing, and all that heat did very bad things to any meat or dairy products every time he would get an outage. As a consequence, he only bought factory-packed, hermetically sealed products that could withstand the heat well. Instant soups and ramen were the core of his diet, supplemented by milk and an occasional basket of fruit the old man had people bring him. And besides, he didn't really know how to prepare anything more complex than various instant meals, and the instructions were always really tiny and used all sorts of funny words that Naruto didn't understand. As he exited the store and started walking home, he heard a sound to his left and stiffened momentarily. All day now he has been hearing things, like someone was stalking him, but the sounds were too sporadic for that. It was his childhood all over again. He shrugged and continued on. Probably just a cat or something. Break. It's been a week since Sasori started shadowing Uzumaki Naruto, and he had to admit that the blonde was definitely more than he expected. Being a Kyuubi Jinchuriki would have been interesting enough in itself, but the boy lived a life as interesting as befits his status as the container of the nine-tailed fox. Just avoiding being seen was a chore. Since the boy had more than just good hearing, it was positively supernatural in scope. Stealth wasn't really Sasori's specialty, so it took constant effort to be as silent as he needed to be, but fortunately the boy wasn't too paranoid. In the end, Sasori enlisted Kabuto's help in order to procure the academy records and observe the boy during lessons. Superficially, the boy was an utter failure, an atrociously bad student with a penchant for immature pranks and an unhealthy obsession with his female classmate. Utterly devoid of social intelligence and possessing of incredibly grating manner of speech. Most people would say, and had said, in front of the boy sometimes, that the boy was hopeless. Sasori wasn't most people. What he saw potential. The spars organized by the academy, as well as an occasional vivid report by one of the instructors, showed that the boy had excellent spur-of-the-moment planning and often came up with unconventional, but effective tactics. Clearly the blonde had a good grasp of strategy stuff somewhere in his brain, squeezed between his obsessions with becoming Hokage, ramen, and that Haruno girl. His ability to live alone without becoming a total slob displayed depths of logistics and willpower that many men 3 times his age couldn't muster. Finally, considering the complete disinterest the vast majority of academy instructors had for him, the boy was doing surprisingly well. Sasori couldn't deny he was interested in Naruto. There was some part of him that he didn't even know he still had that sympathized with the boy's plight. And in the worst case, maybe he can find out something that might be of use if he ever decides to go back to Akatsuki. Really, he didn't have to do much. He would just talk to the kid and see where it leads. Maybe Sasori's influence will rub off on the kid, and if not, well, it's not like he lost much, did he? Naruto didn't have anyone to help him, either in his calling as a ninja or in life. The 3 people he interacted with on positive terms were little more than acquaintances by standards of other people. He had no one he could really go to if he had a problem, no role model, no one he could reliably count on. The boy was desperate to find someone, anyone, who would not hate him or ignore him. And Sasori was going to be that someone. Break. Happy birthday, Naruto. Sarutobi suppressed a chuckle of amusement as Naruto grunted something vaguely like thank you before continuing his assault on the ramen bowl. The boy was so easy to please. It made him feel bad for not devoting more time to the child, but he was swamped with obligations. The Kyuubi attack and the Uchiha massacre were both massive blows to Konoha's power, leaving scars that would take decades to heal. Other villages were constantly probing for weaknesses. The Hyuga incident came to mind, and internal power plays threatened to blow out of control. Various interest groups bickering amongst each other in an attempt to fill the power vacuum created by the village's misfortunes. Konoha was a giant mess right now, and Sarutobi was in charge of dealing with it. Try as he might, he was just too busy to devote more time to his adoptive grandson. It's not easy to garner respect when everyone knows you're just a placeholder until a suitable successor is found, even if you are the famous professor. It's not easy to assign missions to proper teams when a large section of your forces has been only recently promoted to their positions. It's not easy handling diplomacy in an increasingly hostile world. It's not easy spending time with your family while not shirking from your duties to the village. And on top of all that, he had to find time to visit Naruto. Well, he did. Once every month or 2. Surely no one could ask more of him. So, 10 years old, huh? Said I am, more as a statement than an actual question. Yup, answered Naruto, temporarily breaking off his speed eating. 1 year closer to becoming Hokage. I'm not so sure, said the old man mischievously. If what Uruka is telling me is correct, you'll be glad to even graduate from the academy. That's mean, old man, protested Naruto, but quickly twisted his face into his signature foxy grin. You're just afraid for your job, so you're trying to demoralize me. Uzumaki Naruto doesn't quit that easily. I'm glad to hear that, said the aging Hokage. Determination is a crucial skill for a ninja. Still, I'm somewhat concerned that a potential Hokage is unwilling to do the work necessary to qualify for the position. Will you shirk from your responsibilities as a Hokage too? No, shouted Naruto, rising from his stool. I'm going to be the best Hokage ever. I wouldn't betray the village like that. Sarutobi locked eyes with Naruto, who looked directly into Sarutobi's eyes, as if daring him to contradict him. Even when Sarutobi leaked a minute amount of killing intent, Naruto refused to back down. Hell, the boy didn't even flinch. Sarutobi couldn't resist chuckling in amusement at that kind of bravado. The will of fire burned strongly in him, indeed. Naruto didn't seem very pleased that his heartfelt proclamation was being laughed at, though, and returned to his meal, mumbling about how nobody takes him seriously. I heard you tried to reach me last week, said Sarutobi. I'm sorry that I couldn't meet you, but I was busy and your birthday was close, so. It wasn't anything urgent, I hope. Nope, said Naruto casually. I just had a chat with someone and it made me think. I just wanted to talk to you a bit. Well, I'm all ears, Sarutobi said. It was nothing important, said Naruto, shaking his head. I've dealt with it. How is being Hokage working for you? I manage, Sarutobi said. Good, don't you dare retire before I'm ready to take your place, old man, Naruto warned. Well, you better hurry and improve, because I don't plan to stay Hokage for more than a decade. As you are, you're not looking like a very promising successor. I know, I believe you, but you have to look at things my way. You're lagging behind all your peers. Accuracy, ninjutsu, taijutsu, academic knowledge. You're not very good at any of them. Yet instead of trying to catch up to your classmates, you're spending your time playing pranks on people. That doesn't look very responsible. Naruto's face twisted itself into a sour expression. Sarutobi suspected he wouldn't get an explanation for the boy's bad performance. He found it hard to believe Naruto's problem was laziness, but how else could he explain his abysmal scores? He wasn't abused, Sarutobi was sure of that, while there were certain incidents. When he was younger, Sarutobi's vicious executions of anyone bold enough to attack the boy physically dissuaded potential assassins and thugs. Now, as if in protest against not being able to hurt the boy, people just ignored Naruto as best as they could. which wasn't all that easy when you're dealing with a loud, orange-clad kid practically bouncing off the walls with barely contained energy. "Yeah, I know," said Naruto, finally rubbing the back of his head and chuckling nervously. Sarutobi was honestly surprised. Naruto had never before admitted that his performance is unsatisfactory in any manner. "I'll get better, I promise." Sarutobi wanted to say something, but he knew he did enough damage. His appetite lost, Naruto proclaimed he had enough ramen and disappeared as fast as he could without appearing like he's running away. Sarutobi wished he brought that subject up on some other meeting, not on the boy's birthday. And after the boy had finished eating, he had expected Naruto to deny the accusations with all his breath and press on, not this. It seems the stream of constant failures was finally getting to the kid. Watching at the corner behind which Naruto disappeared, Sarutobi cursed Minato for the mess he left him with, and his two best students for running off like emotional teenagers. It wasn't supposed to be like this. With a sigh, Sarutobi paid for the meal and started walking back to his tower. Hopefully, Naruto would overcome whatever problems held him back and make something of himself. Hope. That's all he could do for the boy right now. Break. Naruto walked into his apartment with a sigh of relief. Even though he only treated his apartment as a place to sleep and a storeroom for his bulkier belongings, he was glad he had the place. It was rather calming to be here, secondly only to sitting on one of the Ikaraku's stools. His apartment might be a dump, with cracks running through the walls, a broken window repaired with duct tape, hit-and-miss utilities, and a million other imperfections, but it was his. There was something comforting in that fact. In the orphanage he had to make a scene whenever he wanted something to be done, but now that he had an apartment all to himself he can shower when he feels dirty, eat when he's hungry, and get clothes for himself without them mysteriously disappearing. But his mood wasn't particularly upbeat. Even the old man thought he was a failure that had really struck a nerve. Being told you're doing badly by a jerk like Haruka is one thing, and altogether another to have that pointed out to you by someone whose opinion you hold in very high regard. He knew that in the end he would make the old man proud by becoming the best ninja ever, but that didn't make the meantime any more pleasant. He went to the bathroom to get a nice calming shower, but the water still wasn't back. He'll have to nag the landlord again. He went by the window, inspecting the potted plants he rescued from the dumpsters around the city. He was slowly nursing them back to health, but they were still sickly looking. Without a second thought, he took his last bottle of water and distributed it to the thirsty greenery. They need it more than he does. What exactly was he supposed to do? Nobody wanted to spar with him, everyone always called him stupid when he asked questions, and he was sick trying to get the clone jutsu to work. The instructors never helped him unless he was being a total ass, and even then they just told him what he was doing wrong, never how to fix it. He was reduced to overhearing advice given to other students and doing his best to apply it to himself. Maybe he could work on accuracy. It's not like you need to know some deep secrets about how to throw a kunai. Yes, that could definitely work. He quickly found his kunai bag and left for his super secret training ground. He would practice his throwing till the sun sets down, and by tomorrow he'd be the best in class. He'll be better than Sasuke, and then Sakura-chan will like him. He chuckled to himself as he added details to his fantasy. Yes, that's exactly how it's going to be. He was rudely wrenched out of his fantasies when he came to his training ground and found it taken. Well, not exactly taken. The training ground was big enough for dozens of people, and the two of them could comfortably use this one without bothering each other. And the other person wasn't exactly rude. He or she was just sitting in the shade of the tree, reading a book. And the training ground wasn't really his. Legally speaking, it was just abandoned. But Naruto cautiously approached, and the identity of the intruder became more defined. It was Red, as Naruto came to think of him, the red-headed teenager whose shop Ivana decorated a week ago. Not really someone Naruto wanted to meet again. Naruto approached with mild apprehension, but Red appeared totally oblivious to Naruto's presence, serene expression plastered on his face. No greeting, no remarks, no nothing. Naruto debated internally whether to say something and initiate conversation, but decided against it. It wasn't the first time he'd gotten silent treatment, and besides, he kind of deserved it this case. So Naruto did the same thing the red-headed teen did, he ignored the other's presence. He took a kunai out of his bag and started abusing the targets in the distance. He did it for hours. He threw kunai after kunai, again and again, switched to shuriken and back to kunai again, until his shoulder was sore and he accidentally slashed his pinky. He wasn't getting any better. The blasted things missed, veered off their intended flight path, and bounced off targets. By the time the noon sun shone directly on the training ground, Naruto was sick of it all, his enthusiasm completely sapped. He kicked the remaining kunai and called them stupid, but found that inanimate objects were unmoved by his insults. Dragging his feet and pouting to himself, he flopped down under the nearby tree. He just couldn't understand what the problem was. He couldn't really be that bad, could he? Suddenly, Red got up from his tree, picking up Naruto's scattered shuriken and kunai, turning them in his hand and inspecting them. Naruto observed him with intense interest but didn't say anything. When the older boy suddenly began walking towards him, Naruto stood up to face him on equal ground. "Your weapons are of very poor quality," began the redhead. "They're too soft, improperly sharpened, and poorly balanced. Whoever sold you these cheated you. You'll never get better as long as you use them. They're not even good for training." For several seconds, Naruto's mind was blank. He tried processing this new knowledge, but it just didn't mesh with his accepted worldview. The merchant who sold him those was so nice. Nice people don't do stuff like that, do they? He couldn't have possibly meant to sell him faulty merchandise. Whoever sold you these cheated you. There was no ambiguity in that sentence, no straw that Naruto's mind could grasp for in order to interpret it in a positive way. Naruto hanged his head, and he paid premium price for those too. I can't get any better ones, Naruto stated. Why not? Asked the Red in a curious tone. Naruto's mind exploded in anger. Why not indeed? He could confront the clerk about this, couldn't he? He could hand them to the old man, couldn't he? But he already knew the answer. He didn't like it, but deep down he was aware of it. The shop owners don't like me, said Naruto, locking eyes with the stranger. That was it, really. It's not just that they didn't respect him or refuse to acknowledge his existence. They actively disliked him. They were going out of his way to inconvenience him, and him alone. They would continue to do so no matter what he did. After our clash that night, said Red, wrenching Naruto from his thoughts, I took it upon myself to find out what I can about you. You are a very notorious person, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto's face fell. Here we go. One more person who heard the stories about him and decided they don't want to be anywhere near him. He should just pick up his stuff and walk away, but, oh what the hell, you bet. Everyone knows about me. I am Uzumaki Naruto, Konoha's #1 prankster and the future Hokage. I see, the other boy didn't change his expression, not for a moment. Well Naruto, if the shop owners won't let you buy proper equipment, how about you let me buy it for you? Naruto's face shifted into his patented foxy grin. This guy wasn't so bad after all. Naruto jumped in the air, punching the sky. 4 out of 10, a new record. Well, for him at least. Red was right. Everything was so much easier with his new kunai and shuriken. He made a mental note to prank the asshole shopkeepers that sold him that crap. Multiple times. Say, Red, are you a ninja? The red-headed teenager seemed to mull it over for a second, which confused Naruto immensely. How hard can it be to answer a question like that? Either you are or you aren't. I am an artist, he said finally. Huh, I'm not a ninja, no. Oh, said Naruto, disappointment evident in his voice. He brightened quickly, however, not wanting to insult his new friend. No matter, you're still okay as far as I'm concerned. So how do you know so much about weapons? I am a shop owner of a shop dealing in ninja supplies. I believe we established that on our first meeting. Oh, right. Anyway, you must have talked to a lot of ninja, then. I have. Naruto was ecstatic. He finally had someone to talk to. Old man was busy all the time, Chuchai and I weren't into ninja stuff, and he didn't really have anyone else to nag. He proceeded to bombard Red with every question he could think of. Initially, he wanted to get as much as he can out of him before the older teen decides he tolerated Naruto's presence long enough. But 2 hours later it became clear that Red had inexhaustible patience. Even Ian couldn't put up with him for that long. But Naruto decided not to push his luck. He'll be patient and ask him more some other time. He can be patient when he wants to. Really, he can. Plenty of days available. Now that he thought about it. Hey Red, can we meet tomorrow here? Yes. Your parents won't mind. My parents are dead, Naruto. We established that on our second meeting. Is your memory really that faulty, or is it simply not worth your time to memorize simple personal details about me? Naruto froze. No, it's just, I sort of didn't pay attention then. Red's eyes narrowed. Wait, that didn't turn out right. I meant to say, it won't happen again, I promise. Red, ninja store owner, parents dead. See, I remember. Good, said Red icily. I have no intention on talking to people who don't bother to listen. My time is valuable. I listen, protested Naruto. Geez, I forget one detail and you're already on my case. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow then. You won't be sorry for helping me. You'll see, I'm going to be the next Hokage and... Will you give it a rest already? Said Red. You want to be Hokage? I get it. You told me that 27 times already. I counted. Must I resort to drastic measures to make you stop? Naruto puffed in annoyance. His new friend didn't seem to care much for his heartfelt proclamations. He didn't get annoyed with him like everyone else, but he didn't share his enthusiasm either. He was just, there. It was enough. Break. ... And then he screamed at me for 5 minutes because I couldn't name the 5 major elemental nations. Can you believe that? Yes, said Red flatly. It's common knowledge. 5-year-olds know it. Fire, earth, wind, water, and lightning. If I were the instructor, I would have brought the world map into the classroom, and anyone who couldn't name every single nation on it, major and minor, would be thrown out of the academy. Naruto stared at Red in disbelief. This wasn't the reaction he expected. But how am I supposed to know that? Nobody tells me anything. Naruto? Yes. Can you name the 5 major elemental nations now? Naruto opened his mouth but caught himself. His usual bullshit responses to these sorts of questions tended to piss Red off. He stayed silent, trying to understand why Red asked him that. I just told you their names less than a minute ago, said Red after a few seconds of silence. It's 5 measly words. Name them. Naruto racked his mind, but he just couldn't remember. He didn't pay attention. Nobody tells you anything because you don't bother listening, Red said finally, breaking the uncomfortable silence. He rose from the ground and dusted himself off. Where are you going? Asked Naruto in a panicked voice. Home. I think we should take a week-long break from our meetings. Naruto paled. But why? Red gave him an icy look. I am sick of saying things to you only to have to repeat them again a mere hour later. You don't appear to be listening to a word I say, so I don't see why you need me anyway. If you're not interested in hearing what other people have to say, you might as well talk to a rock. No, it wouldn't, protested Naruto. I listen and all, it's just ... and let's not even mention your alleged sense of humor, continued Red. Oh come on, Naruto protested. You know that was funny. Things like that are funny for all of 5 minutes, then they become annoying. Well fine, I'll stop being funny. You happy now? No change there, you were never funny. That was my whole point. But anyway, now we come to an especially grating part of your personality, your tardiness. You were 30 minutes late today. That's the second time in 4 days that you left me waiting. I told you, my alarm clock is faulty, protested Naruto. Then replace it, said Red. I hate waiting and making people wait. I came on time and I expect you to return the favor. In any case, all these things are just specific symptoms of your general inability to take things seriously. We're taking a break from our meetings and I suggest you put some thought into your attitude towards me, because as it is I see no point in spending time with you. Naruto watched as Red walked away, his mind blank. These past 4 days were some of the best he had. He finally had someone willing to listen to him. Someone who didn't ridicule him much. Someone who didn't find him annoying. Well, intolerably annoying. He didn't understand what the big deal was. Just because he didn't know the names of those 5 nations, Red lost it. That was one thing he didn't like about Red, he didn't play by the rules. Naruto knew how to deal with most people. Red just didn't fit. There was no ready-made responses Naruto could marshal. As he thought about it all for the next hour, sitting unmoving in the training ground where his red-headed friend left him, Naruto finally understood what was it that the blonde found so uncomfortable about Red when he first met him. Red made him think. There was no other way to deal with people who didn't behave like they're supposed to, after all. The trouble was that Naruto wasn't very good at thinking. But if he didn't think, Red would stop meeting with him. So he sat, and waited, and thought, break, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. I'll get better, I promise. HMPH. Naruto was now getting annoyed. He apologized, didn't he? He was sorry, wasn't he? He promised he would get better, didn't he? So what the hell was this all about? Geez, I apologize and everything and you're still being a jerk, said Naruto. Why is everyone always on my case, anyway? It's hard to believe in the sincerity of your apologies, because you're such a rude and irresponsible child, said Red, putting a special emphasis on child, clearly aware how much Naruto hated to be referred to as such. I'm not any of those things, shouted Naruto, pointing at Red with his outstretched finger. I bet you can't name even one event where I... Naruto, Red said suddenly, the seriousness stopping Naruto in his tracks. Do you know what my name is? Naruto stared blankly at his red-headed friend. Your name? Not a difficult question to grasp, said Red. Taking into account your baffled expression and your habit of referring to me as Red, I will assume you're just trying to buy for time and that you don't, in fact, know what my name is. Am I correct? Naruto simply looked towards the ground as a response. I know your name is Uzumaki Naruto, Red continued. I knew this since our very first meeting. Yet even after several days of meeting with me, you don't want to know what my name is. It's not true. It's Sasori, by the way. Sasori, repeated Naruto feebly. Not asking for people's names and giving them random nicknames instead is rude and inconsiderate. It also makes it hard for people to understand you, since only you know what these nicknames refer to. I've lost count of the number of times you've dropped smokestack, pineapple head, bastard, or old man into your monologues. How am I supposed to know who these people are? Well, that's easy, said Naruto. Smokestack is. It doesn't matter. Are you going to explain this to everyone you talk to? People have names for a reason. Okay, I get it. Your dismissive tone says otherwise. Do you honestly think people can't tell when you're taking them seriously and when you're just trying to blow them off? If you don't want to work on yourself, at least be upfront about it so people aren't tempted to waste time on giving you advice. Well, Naruto began, flustered and irritated. Maybe if people actually gave me advice about things I wanted to know about, I would actually listen. That would be a terrible way to teach anything, said Sasori. People generally want novelty and neat tricks, something exciting and interesting. Useful advice tends to be dull, tedious, and familiar. They've heard it all before, and it sounded like a lot of hard work and self-discipline. Case in point, I noticed you've stopped practicing your accuracy since our first meeting. Oh, that. Well, I figured since I'm a lot better now I should. Stop bothering and coast by on the least amount of effort, offered Sasori. Naruto frowned. Who cares about the stupid kunai, anyway? I want to learn cool jutsu, anyway. And who's going to teach you these cool jutsu? That's right, no one. The worst thing about it all is that you have the gall to talk about how you're going to be at the top of your class by the time you graduate. You don't get to be at the top of your class just by knowing cool jutsu. So instead of putting some effort in your free time and getting well-rounded skills, you're waiting for some mythical cool jutsu that will let you compensate for your lack of practice. Naruto wanted to say something, he really did, but Sasori's words really hit home for Naruto. He didn't know why, but he felt just awful after being chewed out by Sasori like that. Not awful like he felt when the villagers put him down for no reason, that just made him angry and irritable, but the sort of awful where he felt like shit. So, what do you think I should do about all this? Break. Practicing was a chore, but Naruto had to admit it was working. After 2 weeks of practicing his accuracy every day, he was already capable of hitting 80% of the targets. He was so excited the first time he did that, but Sasori merely told him to keep going at it until he can hit them all consistently, and that maybe he should increase the distance to make it more challenging. Naruto was annoyed at the time, annoyed that Sasori didn't praise him for his achievement, annoyed that he was told to make things even harder now, and annoyed that he was ready to call it quits after a minor success like that. He didn't like acknowledging criticisms, but Sasori was definitely right about one thing: Naruto didn't work nearly hard enough. He knew this because he had been stalking Sasuke around for the past week and had seen his rival's training regimen. Even discounting the fact that Sasuke had personal trainers, he practiced far harder than Naruto did. And Naruto would never let Sasuke win. If defeating that bastard meant practicing every day, then so be it. But that was neither here nor there. Sasori had invited him to his store, and Naruto would be damned to miss an opportunity like this. He had always wanted to take a good look at the various stuff ninja stores were selling, but he never really had a good enough excuse to linger around. Ninja store owners tended to be leery of costumers that stayed inside longer than necessary, and being Uzumaki Naruto didn't help. He cautiously entered the store, only to find Sasori lazily looking at him from behind the counter. True to its purpose, the store was filled with weaponry, backpacks, arm guards, explosive notes, all sorts of ninja equipment. Naruto looked around like a kid in the candy store. Sasori, yes, can I check them out? Anything except explosive notes. Naruto let out a victory cry and ran around, inspecting the weapons and equipment on display. Sasori's store was a high-end one if the price tags were of any indication. Normally he wouldn't even be allowed inside a store like this. He stopped swinging an ink-black kunai, thinking about it, before asking Sasori about it. Sasori, I thought stores like this don't allow non-ninja inside. Not as costumers, no. Oh, said Naruto. I get it, it's alright for me to be here as long as you don't sell me anything. I'm fine with that, I don't have the money to put this stuff anyway. He spent a full hour darting around, before he realized it was unwise to keep Sasori waiting so long. The older boy was a nice person at heart, but only as long as Naruto threaded carefully around him. He wasn't someone you could take for granted. So, began Naruto. What now? You said you wanted to talk to me about something. I have a job offer for you. That was unexpected. He stared blankly at Sasori, who simply returned his gaze in silence. A job, said Naruto incredulously. What kind of job? Paperwork, mostly. Paperwork, asked Naruto, as if Sasori asked him to swallow a live centipede. Why would I want to do that? You say you want to be Hokage, correct? Yeah, being Hokage means reading reports, assigning missions, handling supply logistics, that sort of thing. In other words, paperwork. Think of it as training for being Hokage. When I become Hokage, I'll ban paperwork, said Naruto matter-of-factly. And the second reason is that I'll be paying you 500 ryo a month, remarked Sasori casually. Naruto's objections collapsed in his throat, leaving him speechless. 500 ryo a month. For paperwork. That was a lot of money. Sasori, I can't accept that. That's way too much money you'd be paying me. Fine, then you get 10 ryo. What? How do you get from 500 to 10? It's a life lesson. Offer someone a finger and they'll take your whole arm. Now that I know you'd be willing to work for less than 500, it's time to see just how low. Naruto glared at Sasori. Yeah, well, now I refuse to accept the job for less than 600 ryo. What now? Deal. Wait here while I go get today's stack. Naruto tried to mentally digest what just happened here. Did he just accept to do paperwork, of all things? As Sasori returned with a huge stack of paper, Naruto concluded that yes, he did. He considered arguing about it, but 600 ryo. He could use that money. He could finally get some decent gear, buy new pots for his plants, get the window fixed, eat more often at Ikaraku's. Lots of things. So what do I do exactly? Review orders and letters I got in the past week, do an inventory of all the merchandise and order new shipments of needed items. You trust me to do things like that? Of course. Well, so what happens if I make a mistake somewhere? I've never done anything like this in my life. Like, what if I order a bunch of useless shuriken or something? The losses get taken out of your salary, of course. What? It's only fair. Now get to work. I'll be helping you for the first few weeks to see if you're any good. Naruto just couldn't understand Sasori. He just gave a 10-year-old a task of doing something this important. What kind of person does something so? Stupid. No, of course it wasn't stupid. Sasori just saw how awesome he is, the first in the line of many that realized his greatness. Besides, the redhead didn't look that much older than Naruto, and he was presumably handling it himself up until now. It was harder than it looked. He was never all that good at reading, and the documents used all sorts of fancy terms, but he had Sasori looking behind his shoulder and helping, so he persisted. He couldn't quit now that Sasori had placed much faith in him. It would be admitting failure, and he couldn't have that. Sometimes, Sasori would want to know why he chose to do this and not that, and prodded Naruto for explanations. Naruto was kind of pissed at that, because it was obvious that he did something wrong, and Sasori, instead of telling him what it is, would insist on trying to make him think of the answer on his own. What was it with Sasori and thinking, anyway? When they got to the numbers, Naruto nearly had a seizure until he realized it's nothing like math in the academy. This was mostly simple addition and subtraction, not the weird math where you swap letters and numbers. But it was still boring, so he could definitely see why Sasori didn't want to do it himself. "That's enough," said Sasori finally. "I'll be closing for today." "Phew, I can see why old man hates this stuff so much." Naruto blinked as Sasori threw a stack of bills and a small book in front of him. "That's 300 ryo. You'll get the other 300 at the end of the month. You know, I can't be here all the time. I'm still a student at the Ninja Academy." "That's fine. You're not needed all the time. Come whenever you're free, as long as you don't let the paperwork pile up. I don't care about the amount of time you devote to it." Naruto picked up the book and looked Sasori in a silent question. "It's an action novel," said Sasori casually. "I thought you might like it." Naruto suppressed the urge to snort. "Reading? For fun. He'd sooner drive nails into his fingers." But it was a gift from Sasori, so he would keep it out of consideration. He found a pocket on the inside of his jumpsuit and placed the book inside before promptly forgetting about it. Overall, the day wasn't the sort of thing he was expecting. Somewhat dazed from the experience, Naruto trudged off towards his apartment, mulling about today's event in his head. His life kept getting more and more interesting ever since he met Sasori. But that was a good thing. Break. Sasori was a little too optimistic. It took Naruto 3 whole months till he got the hang on his job, and Sasori was curiously understanding of Naruto's difficulties. The redhead was always willing to answer questions and help Naruto out. As long as Naruto actually listened, that is. Sasori seemed to have a sixth sense when someone is tuning him out. Gradually, Naruto came to rely on Sasori for all sorts of things, seeking out the older boy's advice when in doubt. Sasori was a lot more approachable than the old man, and a lot less cryptic as well. Even though Naruto often didn't like what Sasori had to say, he still respected the redhead. Unlike everyone else, who either ignored him or called him stupid for asking things that everyone knows, Sasori took him seriously. Though that's not to say that Sasori went easy on him. "Man, that's Sasuke's. Will you shut up about Sasuke? Or Sakura for that matter." "I don't care." Naruto cringed. Sasori didn't raise his tone, but his annoyance was obvious in his every word. "I'm just bothered by him. Everyone likes him so much just because he's an Uchiha," Naruto mumbled. "It's not fair. He doesn't even care about any of them. You don't care about your classmates either." "What do you mean?" Naruto screeched mutinously. "I care. About Sasuke and Sakura. Everyone else is beneath your notice. If you mention them at all, you dismiss them as stupid or weird. With an attitude like that, it's no wonder I'm your only friend." If this wasn't Sasori's usual manner of speech, Naruto would have been insulted. As it is, he just resisted the urge to scream at his red-headed friend. Sasori didn't care. Every time Naruto started screaming about something, Sasori just told him to stop being a child, and Naruto would feel like the biggest idiot in the world. So instead he took several deep breaths and locked eyes with Sasori. "They don't like me. Neither do Sasuke and Sakura." Naruto gritted his teeth. Sasori just didn't understand. Sakura is his friend. When they were little, she was an outcast like him, all the other children teasing her about her forehead, of all things. Her forehead was beautiful. So he helped her out one day, and they played games in the park together. She was nice to him. It went on for a week, until she came to him one day and told him her parents won't let her play with him anymore. And then she found a new friend in Ino, and they started obsessing about Sasuke, and he was left behind alone. Again, she didn't even remember him anymore, but Naruto couldn't let it go. They were so alike, even now. Her friend Ino broke up with her over Sasuke. The rest of the class mocked her behind her back, and Sasuke wouldn't give her time of day. Yet she persisted. That sort of determination was just like his own, and he respected her for it. He's the only one who respected her, the only one who believed in her. Why can't she see that? What does she see in Sasuke? He asked. Sasori continued scribbling on the pieces of paper scattered on the table. He is rich, handsome, extraordinarily gifted, comes from a prestigious family, and has a tragic past that strikes a chord in people's hearts. He's a cold-hearted bastard. Or alternatively, he has a wounded heart just waiting for that special girl whose love can heal it. A lot of people are suckers for broken birds. Girls are stupid, then. Congratulations, Naruto, you just made a sentence that is both hypocritical and sexist with only 4 words. What do you mean? If there's anything I learned from your endless soliloquies about Sakura, it's that you think she's broken and that you're that special someone who can fix her. Naruto denied that until he ran out of breath. How could Sasori even suggest that? Sakura wasn't broken, she just had a few rough edges that needed to be smoothed out. But she was perfect otherwise. If you love someone for what they could be, instead of for what they are, you obviously think there is something wrong with them, countered Sasori. If it makes you feel any better, you're not the only guy who's like that. That particular tendency transcends gender boundaries. A lot of people think they have what it takes to fix people and bring out the nugget of gold hidden underneath. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they bite more than they can chew, and some people are not worth fixing. Be careful of burning too many bridges to reach your precious Sakura. What bridges? I ain't got any bridges to burn, Sasori. And you never will if you continue to act this way. I doubt anyone will want to be around you if you keep obsessing about Sasuke and Sakura. Not everyone is as tolerant, and I am. Naruto scowled at him. Sasori, tolerant. Yeah, right. Alright, what do you think I should do, then? Talk to your other classmates. Give them a chance if they're not openly hostile. Are there any other outcasts beside yourself? People dismissed by the rest of your classmates are your best bet. They have the least to lose by associating with you. And for the love of Kami, don't mention Sasuke or Sakura to them. There must be something, anything you can talk to them about beside that. Even ramen will do. Naruto furrowed his brow in concentration. Truth be told, he tried approaching everyone in class and found them all to be either dismissive, hostile, or avoidant of him. He could think of only one person that didn't have an immediate adverse reaction to him, and he definitely wasn't popular. Well, there is that silent weirdo that always wears sunglasses. No, he's kinda creepy. That's not what I meant. I meant you shouldn't refer to him as a weirdo. He has a name, I presume. Why yeah, Shino. Hey, break. There aren't a lot of things that could leave a Burame Shino confused, but when Uzumaki Naruto approached him during the lunch break he was truly stumped for an explanation. At first he was guarded. The blonde was infamous for his pranks, causing Shino to rack his brain in an attempt to spot one coming. Or at least come up with a reason for being targeted. He had noticed that the blonde didn't really choose his victims at random, that the person being pranked always provoked him somehow. Though Uzumaki seemed to have a very trigger-happy definition of provocation. He could think of nothing he did to provoke the blonde, seeing how they never really interacted, but who knows what thoughts dwell in the mind of someone as illogical as Uzumaki Naruto. But no prank ever came. Naruto politely introduced himself, without excess shouting and without a single mention of how he was going to become Hokage. This set off all sorts of alarms in Shino's head, as it was untypical to the boy's general attitude, but still he found no reason for his paranoia. After hearing Shino's curt introduction in return, Naruto sat down beside him and began talking. The first day he simply asked Shino simple questions, meanings of certain words, requests for clarifications of academy material, inconsequential things. At first Shino suspected he was being tested in some manner, but quickly discarded that theory. The blonde truly didn't know the answers to these questions, simple as they may be. Though he felt Uzumaki should have already known these things, it was in his nature to respond concisely and accurately. That Naruto didn't mock his style of speech definitely earned the blonde some points in Shino's book, however. If this was all there was to it, Shino would have dismissed it as an isolated curiosity, but Naruto was back tomorrow. This time he didn't ask questions. After exchanging greetings he just sat down beside him and spent his break mostly in silence. He did make a few offhand remarks, but nothing that merited a response in Shino's opinion. He was back the next day, and the next, and the next. Sometimes he asked questions, sometimes he talked about things, sometimes he just sat beside Shino in silence. He didn't talk about being Hokage, didn't mention Uchiha Sasuke or Haruno Sakura. Instead, Naruto talked about the academy and his thoughts about the material taught in it, about the challenges he faced in living alone, and about his favorite places to go to in Konoha. Shino listened to it all, transfixed by the cheerful voice of Naruto as he explained Shino the best way to get by if you lose your utilities for a few weeks. It wasn't that it was so terribly interesting, it was quite mundane actually. It was just the combination of Shino's ingrained tendency to listen attentively no matter what, and the fact that Naruto's life was so unlike anything he ever imagined. Naruto's world was almost surreal, an empty world in which his only contact with people was a meeting with the Hokage once a month and an occasional interaction with the teachers and students in the academy. He didn't live in an orphanage, as Shino would have suspected. He lived alone in his own apartment, doing his own chores. He worked at a ninja supplies store to get some side cash because his orphan stipend was barely enough for him to get by. He had no friends his own age and seemed to lack knowledge most people took for granted, having learned it from their parents and peers as young children. In light of this, his abysmal performance in the academy didn't seem so strange. Uzumaki Naruto possessed a depth that Shino would have never suspected. What's more, Shino suspected that he was the first person Naruto told this to. This sort of gesture of trust was rather moving to the Aburame, and he found himself compelled to share some facts of himself in return, which led to an uncomfortable realization. Shino found himself strangely reluctant to reveal his Kikai to Naruto. Due to his social isolation, Naruto was probably the only person in the class who didn't know about them. Would Naruto have approached him if he knew he houses a colony of insects in his body? He had grown to like the blonde over the last few days, and the thought of his potential friend leaving in disgust was mildly upsetting. Of course, he had no intention of being a friend to someone who couldn't tolerate his allies, and his father had already talked to him about other people's reaction to his Kikai at great length, but he still felt reluctant. But since Shino was a man of logic and not instinct, he broke the subject to Naruto. He had gotten a lot of reactions to his Kikai in the past, but that's so cool. Was not one of them. Break. As weeks went by, Naruto came to a startling realization. Sasori was not only interesting but educational as well. He always knew that Sasori was knowledgeable about ninja, but man, did he knew a lot. Almost as much as Sakura. And unlike her, he didn't hit him when he asked questions, not even really stupid ones like what is chakra. Once he decided he would take advantage of Sasori to actually learn something in a systematic fashion, Naruto started carrying a scroll with him at all times. Whenever he didn't understand something, he wrote it down so he can remember to ask Sasori later. Suddenly, everything made so much more sense, and he was no longer the only one who didn't get it. He knew all major clans in Konoha and quite a few of them from other ninja villages. He could name all nations and their major cities and point to them on a map. He knew what chakra is and what are the strengths and weakness of 5 basic elements. He could list the abilities of every major bloodline and clan from around the elemental nations. Some of that was not required knowledge by the academy, but Sasori told him it was an embarrassment for a ninja to not know these things, and if Sasori said he should know it, Naruto was inclined to listen. It wasn't much really, but for the first time in his life he didn't feel like an utter idiot when listening to academy lectures. And since Sasori was so much more interesting and educational than academy instructors, Naruto tried to skip classes to learn from Sasori, which earned him a visit from the Hokage. "Hello, Naruto. Care to go to Ikaraku's with me?" "My treat." Naruto looked at the old man standing in front of him. The Hokage wanted to talk to him about something, probably about his lack of attendance at the academy. "Damn you, Oroka, what did I ever do to you?" "Sure," he said cheerfully. "Ikaraku, here we come." They chatted on the way to the stand, but Naruto wasn't fooled by the old man's pleasant demeanor. He wanted to know something. He would stuff him full of ramen and then swoop in with questions afterwards. Naruto didn't mind. As far as interrogation procedures go, that one was okay. He knew that if that didn't work, the old man would use the stick part of the carrot and the stick method. Naruto couldn't afford to be on the Hokage's bad side, and they both knew it. After a loud greeting with Chuchai and Iam, Naruto began devouring his ramen, taking full advantage of old man's generosity. He must have had 10 bowls by the end of it, but he wasn't counting. Finally, a minute after he declined another bowl from Iam, the old man spoke. "Haruka tells me you're skipping classes. Haruka is always complaining about me. I was sick. I can always tell when you're lying, Naruto." Sick of his classes, that is. Old man sighed. "I thought you'd try harder. Isn't that what you told me?" "But I am trying," complained Naruto. "Didn't you look at my scores? I got way better, didn't I?" Old man nodded solemnly. "Which is strange, you'll admit. How exactly are you getting better by skipping class? Your accuracy improvement is particularly rapid, almost like you were holding back before." "I wasn't holding back. The shopkeepers sold me defective kunai so they weren't flying straight and tended to bounce off when they hit. I bought new ones and now I'm getting better." For a few moments, the Hokage seemed at loss for words. "I'm sorry to hear that, Naruto. I promise you, if you give me the name of those shopkeepers I'll—" "That's okay, old man, I don't want to cause trouble." "For me, you mean?" asked Sarutobi with a small smile, his eyes closed. "Hey, I overhear people. They don't like you hanging out with me. If you start messing with shopkeepers for me, you'll get both of us in trouble. I'm sure they'll get what they deserve." The Hokage smirked, looking at Naruto in mirth. "You mean you're going to prank them?" Naruto merely chuckled deviously and rubbed his hands together. "So how do you get the shopkeepers to sell you honest equipment now?" the old man asked. "I just pay more attention to what I'm buying now," said Naruto with a shrug. It wasn't a lie. Before, he didn't actually know he was getting cheated. The shopkeepers told him they were selling him special kunai, which he assumed meant extra cool. He resisted the urge to scowl at how idiotic he's been. "What about the written test? You actually scored higher than Shikamaru this time." Uruka was quite surprised. Naruto frowned. Why was old man so fixated on Uruka? It's true that Uruka had become better than he was at the beginning, but that's hardly saying much. The day before the exam, Uruka had reminded him, and only him, about the upcoming test, much to the mirth of the entire class. If he had really cared about him, he could have done that after class, instead of humiliating him in front of Sakura and others. And even if Uruka is somewhat okay, he's only one teacher among dozen. "Old man, do you know why every Hyuga has those freaky eyes of theirs?" Sarutobi blinked. "Of course, the Byakugan. I didn't, up until 2 weeks ago. Nobody saw fit to answer me when I asked." Naruto met the old man's eyes, but he couldn't decipher what the expression on Hokage's face meant. He never knew how much he should tell the old man. The Hokage had enough of his own problems, and Naruto was never very good with words anyway. "Naruto, I'm not sure I understand," the Hokage said carefully. "When I started with the academy, I could barely read properly and I didn't know a lot of things everyone took for granted. And every teacher, including your precious Uruka, ignored me no matter what I did. Uruka is several years too late," fired Naruto back immediately. "How am I supposed to understand what he's talking about when he actively sabotaged me when we were learning fundamentals?" Old man was looking somewhere in the distance, seemingly ignoring Naruto. He remained silent for a few seconds. "So what's behind the improvement, then? Did you find yourself a new teacher?" "No," said Naruto firmly. "It wasn't a lie. Sasori was a friend, not a teacher. I just ask people until someone tells me the answer. That someone being Sasori. Whenever someone brushes him off when he asks for an answer, Naruto marks it down in his scroll and waits till his next meeting with his red-headed friend. It was also good as an intimidation tactic. Academy instructors got a lot more cooperative once he started whipping out his scroll in front of them every time they ignored him. Everyone seemed to assume he was marking down infractions against him. Naruto felt somewhat bad for keeping secrets from the old man, but the Hokage tended to be rather jumpy in these kinds of matters. And Sasori made a really convincing argument that they shouldn't flaunt the fact that they're friends unless it's necessary to let someone know. That way Naruto's stigma won't attach itself to Sasori as well, and no uncomfortable questions will be asked. Iruka will be relieved to hear that. Okay, old man, spill it. What's so special about Iruka? You keep dropping him into conversations, like I'm supposed to figure something out. You know I'm too stupid for that. You're not stupid, Naruto, said the Hokage with a sigh. And I doubt you really think so little of yourself, either. But my point is, Iruka likes you. He wants to help you, and you're not letting him. I know he had some reservations about you in the beginning, but if by reservations you mean that he hated my guts, yes, I suppose that's one way to interpret it. ... And now he suddenly cares about me oh so much. So what changed? Not me. Actually, you've been acting strangely in the past month. Too quiet, and only one prank. It makes people nervous as they wonder what you're planning. That's not what I mean. Why does everyone either hate me or fear me on sight? Why do I always have to prove to people I'm not a demon or something? The Hokage recoiled as if struck, a sight that Naruto only saw once when it came to old man. Naruto, you're not a demon. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Naruto looked at his elderly benefactor in confusion. He could tell that the old man knew something that he didn't want to tell Naruto. For that matter, everyone seemed to know it. Except for him. He wished there was someone he could ask. Someone who would not keep this apparently very important secret from him. Someone. Ignoring the strange looks he was getting from the old man, Naruto took out his scroll in a practiced movement and furiously scribbled, "Why does everyone hate me?" in the next row. If there was anyone who would be willing to tell him, it was Sasori. "May I see?" the old man asked. Naruto gave it a quick thought. If he said no, the Hokage might get suspicious, and Naruto didn't want him looking too closely into him. And it's not like there was anything incriminating on that scroll. He handed it to the Hokage, who studied it wordlessly. "You do know you're supposed to go to Iruka if you have questions like these. If I could understand Iruka's explanations, I wouldn't need to write these down," answered Naruto. The old man sighed, signaling that he's giving up on that train of thought. "Fair enough, but I can tell you right now that you won't get an answer on the last question from anyone." "What? Why not?" Sandaime locked his gaze with that of Naruto. "Because I forbade anyone to even talk about it, much less tell you outright, under the threat of death." Naruto's face fell. He felt betrayed. The old man Hokage, the person he idolized, is the one who forbid people to talk to him. "Why?" he shouted, trying to contain his anger and failing. "I thought it would make your life easier. I thought it would allow you to at least interact with the children your age normally. I thought, if they didn't know, they would accept you. But I was being foolish. Even if they didn't need to know why their parents hated you, the very fact they did was enough. And those that didn't learn it from their parents, learned it from the rest of the children. I actually read a few psychology books to see where I went wrong. There is this discipline called group psychology. What is this terrible secret that nobody wants me to know about?" asked Naruto impatiently. "You are a container of Kyuubi no Kitsune, the greatest of the Biju." The old man assigned a pair of ninja to trail Naruto after their talk, probably to make sure that Naruto doesn't do anything stupid afterwards. Naruto wasn't sure about their ranks, but they sucked at stealth. That, or they didn't think putting in an effort was worthwhile for a mere academy student. Naruto, for his part, made no indication he was aware of being trailed. He decided to stay away from Sasori until his new bodyguard stopped shadowing him, but that was okay. He didn't want to talk to Sasori at all right now, while his identity as the jailer of the Kyuubi still weighed heavily on his mind. It was a lot of absorb. He supposed this newfound knowledge made him feel relieved. Yes, it was unfair of the villagers to treat him like a Kyuubi reborn, but at least he knew it wasn't his fault. All this time he feared he really did do something to deserve the treatment he got and then forgot about it or something. Now, he could finally put those fears to rest. It was like a giant weight was removed from his shoulders. Unfortunately, his contemplative mood immediately attracted the attention of academy personnel and his normally avoidant classmates. He didn't skip classes, he didn't interrupt the instructors. Hell, he couldn't even summon the will to pester Sakura to go out on a date with him. Considering his recent improvement in test scores, this kind of rapid behavior change definitely raised some eyebrows. One of the teachers actually tried to dispel the genjutsu on him to reveal the imposter. Naruto sighed as he ate his lunch at the sling outside the academy entrance. Hopefully this whole thing will blow over after a month or two. He sure didn't intend to stop with his pranks permanently, and he knew he would never ace the written exams. His source of improvement was Sasori, but Sasori had practical knowledge about ninjas, while academy exams focused on inane historical curiosities, famous names, vogue moral proclamation, and other drivel, something that Sasori cared about as much as Naruto did. Nevertheless, his recent improvement was enough to make him second to last for the first time ever. It was kind of surreal actually, finally not being the worst student. He supposed he shouldn't have been surprised when Shikamaru confronted him during recess. "You just had to do it, didn't you?" Naruto peeled his eyes from his sandwich to look at the annoyed-looking Shikamaru. Well, more annoyed-looking than usual. Shikamaru was usually grumpy when he had to interact with anyone but Chaoji. "Why, the last week's test. You just had to get better suddenly, didn't you?" Uruka called my mother the next day to tell her how even you are starting to take your education seriously, and I'm being, quote, left behind in the dust. It has been 3 days and she's still nagging me about it. Do you have any idea how troublesome that is? Naruto just bit into the sandwich, making him wait while he chewed and consequently annoying him. No one liked to be ignored, not even a lazy ass like Shikamaru. To his credit, the boy patiently waited for an answer without a single complaint or a snide remark. So Uruka is finally picking on someone else for a change, Naruto said finally. You don't have a bossy mother to be upset by Uruka's remarks, he insisted. Naruto frowned. You say it like it's a good thing. I'd love to have a mother nagging me, you know. Shikamaru seemed lost for words for a moment. He stood there for a few moments in complete silence, as if wanting to continue the exchange, straining Naruto's always thin patience. Probably as a retaliation for Naruto's insistence of eating in the middle of conversation. So how did you do it? I thought you were an idiot. Naruto pouted. Shika, everything you've said to me so far has been mean. Are you trying to start a fight with me? DFF, you haven't won a single fight in your life. I'm just saying you're being troublesome. Now I have to score higher on the next exam too. Naruto was just about to start shouting at his mentioning Naruto's abysmal fight record when he remembered Sasori's advice about being honest about yourself. Really, Shikamaru was right. He did suck at fighting. He'll have to sit down one day and think up a way to remedy that. Expecting Uzumaki to fail on purpose for your benefit is highly unreasonable, said Shino, having silently approached behind Shikamaru's back. More so considering the hostile approach you applied to this conversation. Shikamaru jumped to the side when Shino started talking, startled by Shino's stealthy approach. He looked like he was about to say something, but then mumbled that it was too troublesome and left. Naruto, for his part, was ecstatic that someone stood up for him. First time ever. He didn't know that Shino actually cared about him. Now that he thought about it, Naruto had been avoiding Shino for the past few days. That wasn't very nice of him. Thanks, Shino. You seem troubled lately, answered Shino, sitting beside him. Naruto rubbed the back of his head nervously. I do, don't I? I just found out a pretty shocking secret about me from the old man. I'm still not sure what to think of it. Shino was silent for a while, but Naruto had learned to be patient with his silences. Shino was not ignoring him, it was just the way his personality and attitude worked. When I'm in a contemplative mood, I always found that a walk through the forest clears my head considerably. I'll be doing some research on my clan grounds today. You're welcome to join me if you're interested. Naruto was touched and more than a little surprised. While he knew that research was Shino's euphemism for searching for bugs, which didn't sound all that interesting to Naruto, he also knew that Shino was a private person who did not invite people along with him lightly. To think that Shino considered them this close, and Naruto has been ignoring him in the past several days just like he did everyone else. It made him feel really, really shitty. Of course, he knew that part of Shino's gesture of trust was a desire to find out more about that shocking secret. Shino was an extremely curious person, and this was just the sort of thing to pique his interest. Naruto agreed enthusiastically, causing Shino to visibly relax. Naruto could tell by the way the tension in the boy's shoulders lessened immediately after his answer. Naruto still didn't know how to interpret Shino's subtle gestures reliably, but he was pretty sure what this one meant. The boy cared a great deal about Naruto's choice, and was relieved that Naruto accepted the offer. Naruto shoved the last piece of his sandwich into his mouth and cursed inwardly. He has been taking Shino for granted, just like he did for Sasori in the beginning. He wouldn't do that from now on, that's for sure. Their lunch break spent, Naruto and Shino trudged off in the direction of the classroom in silence. Break. If you ignored Uruka's scolding for not paying attention in class, the day passed without problems. Right now Naruto was trailing beside Shino as they were trudging through the forest. He glanced to his left, trying to see where the ninja trailing after him were. They're not following us anymore, said Shino beside him. Non-members aren't allowed to enter clan grounds without permission unless their mission is urgent enough. I guess I'm not the only one who noticed them. They're really sloppy. Indeed, Shino walked in silence for a while, but Naruto knew he was itching to continue the interrogation and was just waiting for the sake of politeness. Mostly because he stopped looking at insects around them. So are you going to ask what the secret is or what? Asked Naruto with a grin. Shino slouched his shoulders, aware that he was seen through. I was curious about that, yes. It's an S-class secret of Konoha, said Naruto, and Shino immediately snapped to full attention. I'm allowed to tell whomever I want, but you can't. Do you think you can keep that kind of secret? Hook, line, and sinker. Shino nodded gravely, and Naruto was almost certain he heard the other boy's kikai buzzing in anticipation. Truth be told, he was itching to tell this to someone. He wanted to know what would happen if he told someone his age, and he was certain that Shino would not spread his secret around, even if he decided to avoid him from that point on. 10 years ago, Kyuubi no Kitsune attacked Konoha. We were taught in the academy that the fourth killed it, but that's not really true. The Biju cannot be killed. Instead, the fourth used a powerful sealing technique to bind the demon into a suitable container, a newborn child. Shino stopped, and Naruto followed his example. Before his own technique claimed his life, the fourth wished that I be seen as a hero, but the people of Konoha seemed more interested in killing the demon for good. In order to allow me to live a normal life, Old Man decreed that anyone discussing my true nature as a human sacrifice to anyone who doesn't already know would be executed. Shino nodded and stared at Naruto for a few seconds. You know, if you're scared of me, began Naruto, but Shino uncharacteristically cut him off. I am unperturbed by your tenant. Truthfully, I always knew there was something peculiar about you. My Kikai occasionally become agitated when I'm around you. Oh, does it hurt? No, it's merely unpleasant. Nothing I can't handle or grow accustomed to. Naruto didn't quite know what to say. He was just glad Shino was taking this so well. It was Shino who initiated the conversation again. The reactions of the villagers to your presence. What are you dealing with on a daily basis? Assassination attempts? No, nothing that obvious. Indirect sabotage mostly. You know, I don't. Shop selling me defective merchandise or overcharging. The library losing my membership card. Academy instructors pretending not to hear me when I ask questions. That sort of thing. Shino visibly furrowed his brow as Naruto went further. Nothing that can be easily proven. Exactly. ... And any attempt to alleviate such hurdles would be seen as deviation from orderly conduct. You have to make yourself a pest to get anything done, clarified Shino. I'm not a pest, protested Naruto. Though I'm not sure how all those pranks factor into this, mused Shino loudly, ignoring the pouting blonde. They're just fun to do. There are better ways to pass one's time, remarked Shino. If I recall correctly, you still cannot perform the clone technique. Because it's impossible. It is not impossible, even for someone whose chakra levels are as large as yours. You have a monstrous amount of chakra. Surely you know that. The instructors measured your capacity when you enrolled, and suddenly Shino stopped talking and glanced at his blonde friend. They didn't. No, I was only admitted because of the old man's urgings. The examiners just said I have no potential and nothing else. Shino exhaled in a rare show of irritation, though Naruto knew it was not directed at him. What exactly did they tell you about chakra control? Nothing. Everything I know I learned by bothering other students. As I feared. To make the long story short, the larger your chakra reserves, the harder it is to control them. Your chakra levels are absolutely massive. My Kikai bugs could never get an accurate reading on your chakra levels, but they're definitely higher than that of most seasoned ninja. Frankly, I've never met a person with more chakra capacity than you. While that will surely prove to be a boon in the long term, right now it undoubtedly makes chakra control difficult. A leaf exercise. I can already do the damn leaf exercise. Shino raised his eyebrows. You do. Then I fail to realize how you cannot perform the clone jutsu. You should already possess sufficient chakra control. Naruto shuffled uncomfortably in place and looked to the ground. It was an unpleasant topic to him. He had tried and tried hundreds of times and failed every time. How should he know what's wrong? Try doing it now, said Shino. Why? I want to confirm something. Naruto shrugged and started molding chakra. Naruto, stop, interrupted Shino. You're pouring so much chakra into it you're scaring my Kikai. You're overloading the technique. Try again but with less chakra. Easier said than done. Naruto just couldn't use less chakra. After a dozen attempts he decided he would no waste time on it today. It was just too frustrating. I'm afraid I don't possess the necessary expertise to help you in this regard, Shino said. In any case, you should seek out someone to help you, as there is clearly something unorthodox about your chakra coils. Though Shino had diplomatically chosen not to say it, Naruto could hear the unspoken remark, perhaps the fox has something to do with it. Why is truth always so unpleasant? Break. Still shadowed and unable to do anything worthwhile, Naruto spent the next 3 days preparing a massive prank on all the weapons stores in Konoha that he suspected have cheated him. It involved several buckets of pink paint, a live cow, and a basket of scary hissing beetles that Shino showed him during their little walk. Unfortunately, no matter how cathartic that was, he still couldn't help but think about his recent realizations. His worldview received so many hits recently that it was thoroughly pulverized, leaving a gaping void Naruto was desperately trying to fill with something. This nagging feeling of undirected discontent soon enough crystallized into something more defined, the disappointment with himself. Why is that? With his sensitive hearing and tendency to eavesdrop on conversations, he never pieced things together and figured out he holds the Kyuubi within him. Why is it that he never noticed he had larger chakra reserves than other people? Why did he only start practicing when Sasori called him on it? He could blame the shopkeepers and academy teachers for his miserable abilities. He could blame Old Man for keeping secrets from him. He could blame a lot of things, but he knew a hefty amount of blame rested squarely on his shoulders. He received enough tongue lashing from Sasori to know that he had numerous shortcomings. He was short-tempered, unfocused, quick to jump to conclusions, a braggart, and didn't pay attention to what people were saying a lot of time. He liked to believe he improved ever since Sasori pointed them out to him, but he knew he had a long way to go. And go further he would. He still wanted to be a ninja, a Hokage, the best Hokage. Except that now he knew it would be a lot more difficult to pull off than he initially thought. Just thinking about what is necessary to become a credible candidate for Hokage made his head spin. But such hurdles never stopped him before, and they wouldn't stop him now. If anything, his chances improved now that he knew what he needed to do. Thoroughly tired of pacing around his apartment, he wriggled out of upper half of his jumpsuit and threw it crankily over the chair, causing a small book to fall out of it. The action novel, he remembered. He picked the book up, turning it in his hands. Well, it's not like he had anything better to do. Break. That's all. Class dismissed. Uruka sighed as the classroom erupted into chatter and hurried movement, every student trying to leave the room as soon as possible. Are they afraid that he'll lock them inside if they remain behind for more than a minute? He looked at Naruto. The blonde was in no hurry, absent-mindedly flipping through his textbook and waiting till the commotion subsides. How much he changed. Only a week ago the blonde would have been the first one to exit the classroom. He approached the blonde and spoke to him in a low tone. Naruto, can you stay? I need to talk to you. His favorite student inhaled heavily but deigned to look him in the face and nodded. That's good. It meant he still has some respect left for him. Uruka watched as the classroom emptied, Shikamaru exiting last, dragging his feet like an earthworm after the rain. He had an urge to shout at Shikamaru to get lost already, but technically he had every right to stay as long as he wished. Finally, only 2 people remained and Uruka shifted his attention to Naruto, who was defiantly staring into his eyes. Uruka shifted uncomfortably, letting several seconds of awkward silence pass before speaking. I must say you've surprised me, Naruto, began Uruka. Your accuracy in written exams have improved dramatically over the past few months. I'm glad you're finally taking your education seriously. Naruto shrugged. I began Uruka, trying to think of a way to breach the subject. I had an interesting week. Both the Hokage and Shino have talked to me about you and, well, in light of attenuating circumstance at work in your case, I'm willing to organize remedial classes for your benefit. Uruka watched as various emotions played across Naruto's face. He knew that, until quite recently, the blonde would shout down the offer without a second thought, insulted by the implication that he needs additional assistance. That he was actually considering remedial classes spoke clearly about his change in personality. What exactly would those remedial classes consist of? Asked Naruto suspiciously. Uruka took a deep breath. So far so good. Taijutsu, mostly. I'm leaving you to work on your accuracy and academic skills in your free time, seeing as how you're doing fine there on your own, began Uruka. Truthfully, Uruka would love to work on Naruto's theoretical knowledge as well, but he didn't want to poison the whole deal. Should everything go as planned, Uruka would breach the subject after a few months. As for ninjutsu, well, I don't know what to tell you. Clearly you need to work on your chakra control during your practice sessions. Naruto didn't seem too happy with this. I'm sick of doing the stupid leaf exercise. Isn't there a way to make the clone jutsu work with more chakra? I'm afraid not, Uruka said. It requires very specific amount of chakra to work correctly. Well, why don't you teach something more chakra intensive in the academy? You're being unfair to people like me with large chakra reserves. Began Uruka. Thing is, Naruto, you're something of a rarity. Peculiar cases like you aside, academy students have minuscule chakra reserves. They could never get off anything chakra intensive, and could easily end up suffering from chakra exhaustion, a condition that leaves people bedridden for days or weeks, and may even result in death. Considering how irresponsible most children are, teaching something that could easily kill them is inadvisable. And in any case, one of the functions of Academy Jutsus is precisely to practice your chakra control. Fine, I get it, huffed Naruto. So, Taijutsu, hey, when do we begin? Actually, I wanted to start today. Nothing much, just explaining you the theory behind Taijutsu lessons you'll be getting. Naruto groaned. Naruto, please, it's important. How? Taijutsu is about beating people up. There is no theory there. That's where you're wrong, said Uruka, controlling his irritation. The generic term taijutsu encompasses hundreds of styles, and there is a multitude of consideration to take into account when using it. If it were as simple as you make it, you wouldn't lose every single sanctioned spar the Academy has organized. Ugh, said Naruto irritably. Just give me a scroll about it and… I'm afraid taijutsu doesn't work like that, said Uruka. He was being a bit unfair, since he was deliberately misinterpreting the blonde's words. Naruto was referring to this theory lesson specifically, not taijutsu in general, but it seemed like a perfect opportunity to breach this particular issue. If you want to learn taijutsu, you need a teacher who knows what they're doing and a whole lot of practice on actual opponents, that is to say, sparring. You can't learn it by yourself. But that's precisely what you've been doing thus far, haven't you? Well, I was testing myself by challenging Sasuke to fight me, protested Naruto. Which was a very bad choice of a sparring partner, Naruto, said Uruka. I know you don't want to hear this, but Sasuke is extremely skilled and he never holds back. There are problems so difficult you can't learn much from failing. But no one else wants to spar with me. I have talked to Shino and he has agreed to be your sparring partner from time to time. You just have to work out a schedule with him when you're ready. Oh, now, since you probably didn't pay attention when this was being discussed, I will tell you the theory behind Academy Standard, the taijutsu style every graduate of Konoha Ninja Academy learns. It's not that bad, so stop making faces. If you're not going to listen to what I'm saying, I'll stop with the remedial classes, understand? Sorry, Uruka-sensei. Please continue. Haruka looked at Naruto in surprise. Did Naruto just apologize? Well, if he knew it would have this sort of effect on him, he would have asked Hokage to tell Naruto about the Kyuubi years ago. Right. Anyway, at first glance Academy Standard is a somewhat weak taijutsu style lacking in special maneuvers, but there is a reason this particular style is taught to every prospective ninja. It can be effective even in the hands of a physically weak person and isn't tied too closely to the person's body build, meaning that almost everyone can learn it. It doesn't have any particularly rigid stances, making the style easy to learn and improvise upon, allowing users to incorporate new moves and stances as they see fit. You yourself are a prime example of the style's robustness and versatility. Even with your abysmal knowledge of it, you were still able to turn it into something relatively effective. The major weakness of the style is that it isn't suited for taijutsu specialists. Dedicated taijutsu users need to find a more specialized style for themselves. But Uruka-sensei interrupted Naruto, what if I want to be kick-ass at taijutsu? Well, once you become Chunin, you will likely be able to afford a private instructor at whatever style you choose. You will probably be around 15 then, so that will be another plus. What do you mean? Asked Naruto. Taijutsu isn't very effective in the hands of a freshly graduated genin, said Uruka. A 12-year-old has neither the muscle mass nor reach to fight hand-to-hand against adults effectively. Not to mention that at this age you still don't know what kind of body build you will have. Academy Standard will serve you adequately for now. And besides, anything is better than that atrocity you currently use. Naruto pouted, causing Uruka to chuckle at the gesture. So if I can't reach my full potential till I'm older, said Naruto, what about all those people who became super ninjas as kids that I hear people talking about? Said Uruka, gathering his thoughts. Most child prodigies focus on ninjutsu, since developing your chakra is less dependent on age. The only exception I can think of are some Hyugas, but Gentle Fist depends heavily on chakra usage, so it actually further supports my point. Naruto was silent, staring into his desk, clearly thinking heavily about it. Well, that's it, really. It wasn't so bad, wasn't it? Uruka said. We'll start off for real in a week. As he watched Naruto scamper away, Uruka couldn't help but feel a little proud for his blonde student. Hopefully his enthusiasm won't evaporate too quickly. Break. Naruto pushed on the door of Sasori's shop a little more forcefully than necessary, marching into the shop with steps that were intentionally loud and noticeable. Sasori didn't even look at him, instead opting to continue reading his book. It pissed Naruto off more than any insult or disparaging remark. Instead of saying anything, Naruto marched straight to the desk and folded his arms over his chest, looking at Sasori expectantly in silence. He stood there for a full minute, stubbornly refusing to be the one to initiate conversation. I see you finally deigned to show up, said the redhead finally. The paperwork is over there. You got quite a pile to work through today. You knew, didn't you? Said Naruto harshly. Sasori glanced at him. Of course I knew. And you didn't tell me. And what would you do if I had? March into Hokage's office and demand an explanation. Damn right I would. At which point he'd look for the one who spilled the beans. The punishment for which is death. Naruto was immediately silenced. He wanted to say something to deny that, but he had just admitted he'd go to Hokage as soon as Sasori told him about the Kyuubi. Already this conversation wasn't going how he wanted it to. Oh well, he was good at improvisation. Sasori, you aren't a normal civilian, aren't you? What makes you say that? Things. Am I right? Define normal civilian. Sasori. What? It is a rather vague category, admitted Sasori. Taking time to hang out with me, answering my questions, giving me all that money in a roundabout way. You've been manipulating me all this time. All interaction between people is manipulation of one sort or another. We're all puppets, tugged in this or that direction by the laws of reality, our place in society, and our own natures. I do not harbor any ill will towards you, if that's what you mean. Though we were friends. Friendship is just a mutually beneficial social contract. Wasn't I helpful to you? Well, yeah, but there you go. I can be more helpful still. Naruto narrowed his eyes suspiciously. You said you weren't a ninja. I wasn't lying. I have not officially joined any of the ninja villages. So what can you teach me? Know any jutsu? No. How about taijutsu? I know nothing about it. Damn it, Sasori, stop playing games with me. Look, I'm screwed. I need something to give me an edge when I become a ninja. I need help. Your help. Help me out here, will you? Sasori eyed him curiously. I'm surprised. I thought you'd spend at least one more year goofing off before you realized you should take things seriously. Well, if you wanted to teach me something, why didn't you say anything? Protested Naruto. I would have. No, you wouldn't have, said Sasori flatly. You clearly had negative outlook on being taught anything, and I had no intention of trying to teach an unwilling disciple. Disciple? Yes. Are you interested? Yes. But, if you don't know any jutsu or taijutsu, what could you teach me? Seals, poisons, information gathering, and puppeteering. Naruto thought about it for a minute. A few weeks ago the idea of learning something like information gathering would have been unappealing, but he didn't think so anymore. Knowledge was power and people seemed determined to keep him in the dark. Poisons didn't really mesh with him. He had no idea what puppeteering was, and seals. I thought seals were something only the greatest of ninja can learn. Yes, because they're chakra intensive. Really chakra intensive. And I have huge chakra reserves, finished Naruto. Yes, which means you can learn to wield seals with no problems. As long as you inscribe the array properly and pump enough chakra into it, it will work. No chakra control necessary, you just have to learn sealing theory. Naruto sported the biggest grin in his life. That sounded absolutely perfect. He heard so much about how powerful sealing was. Hell, he had proof of that on his own belly, and now he'll probably be the only genin to wield such might. And this puppeteering stuff. Sasori gave him a good hard look before reaching into his pocket and taking out a scroll. A small scroll the size of Naruto's finger, which he unfurled and placed his hand on. With a puff of smoke he summoned a small doll, no larger than a teapot, roughly humanoid. Sasori raised his hand and the doll got up on its feet. Naruto stared mesmerized as the doll took various poses and strutted around the table. Out of the corner of his eye, he could see Sasori's fingers twitching slightly. Naruto chuckled and rubbed the back of his head. That's kind of cool, Sasori. I didn't know you play with dolls. I suppose it's good for entertaining girls. The moment the words left his lips, he knew he made a mistake. Sasori got up in an instant, his head lowered in a threatening manner. Naruto opened his mouth to apologize but never got the chance. In a blur of movement, Sasori flicked two larger scrolls into the air, summoning two creepy, intimidating dolls to his right and left. Before Naruto could protest, the left doll pointed at him and its arms split open like a flower from hell, launching a hail of needles in Naruto's direction. Naruto stared mortified, feeling the needles whiz past him, so uncomfortably close, painfully aware that he could do nothing. He was defenseless and would have been killed had Sasori been aiming for real. Because that's what this was, a demonstration. Just a demonstration. The gentle thumps his needles impacted the wall behind him echoed inside his mind, making him sick in his stomach, but Sasori remained unperturbed by Naruto's obvious terror. The doll's hand furled back and lowered, and Sasori waited for Naruto to calm down and initiate conversation again. This is the art of puppeteering, said Sasori evenly, but Naruto can almost feel the elation in Sasori's voice. He'd gotten a feeling for the older boy's moods over time, just by listening to subtle inflection of his voice and movements of his head. He was practically shouting by normal standards. I am not exaggerating when I say I am the greatest master of the art. Sasori began a lengthy explanation about puppeteering, about chakra strings and hidden weaponry and so on. Naruto made a point to listen carefully, as Sasori obviously cared a great deal about what he was saying, and Naruto didn't want to become a human pincushion if Sasori catches him not paying attention. How come I never heard of this? Puppeteering. Puppeteers are only found in Suna, I'm afraid, but even there they are a rarity. Being a puppeteer is a demanding vocation, requiring a wide range of skills and inherently coming with some serious weaknesses. Before I came, most puppeteers used their art purely for entertainment purposes. Battle puppets were rare and each one a unique construct, difficult to use and maintain by anyone beside their creator. I came up with several standardized puppets that made the entrance to the field much easier. In a way, you could say I'm the father of modern puppeteering. Wow, so you're famous, only by name, and only to puppeteers and a few older ninja. Most believe I'm dead. So, why is someone so famous interested in me? I'm sure there are plenty of people in Suna. I hate Suna, said Sasori blankly. I refuse to even set foot in that den of vipers. Naruto swallowed heavily. He could tell that he isn't supposed to dig deeper into this right now. He took a deep breath before continuing the exchange. You still didn't tell me what you hoped to gain from teaching me, said Naruto. What do you get out of this socially beneficial contract? Sasori smiled. He smiled. It made shivers run down his spine. Sasori should never smile. There is something I hope to gain by helping you, but you are under no obligation to return my generosity. When the time comes, I'll call upon your help and you will be free to ignore me entirely. It's a risk I'm willing to take. In the short term, however, my request is very simple. I want to study the seal that binds the Kyuubi in you. Naruto immediately agreed. He had nothing else to offer to the older boy, and it's not like there will be any harm coming out of this, right? Right, Sasori, started Naruto after taking a deep breath. There was another thing I wanted to talk to you about. I have a problem, and if you won't help me, no one will. Sasori eyed him suspiciously. Go on. There is something wrong with my chakra coils, said Naruto. My chakra control is unusually bad and I don't know how to fix it. I think the fox has something to do with it. Can you help me? Sasori grinned predatorily. What's with all the smiling suddenly? You know, I think I know just the right person to help you. Break. Well. I finally met the infamous Uzumaki Naruto, Kabuto said. Sasori-sama has told me so much about you, Naruto-kun. Naruto swallowed heavily. Kabuto was pleasant, too pleasant, and the lack of proper lighting in the room didn't help either. But the thing that really convinced him he should watch out for this Kabuto person was the amused smile on Sasori's face, like he was setting up Naruto a prank of something. It's nice to meet you, Kabuto-san, said Naruto as calmly as he could. I, need help with your chakra control, offered Kabuto. Show me. Do you know any techniques yet? Well, no. We are currently learning clone and try it, said Kabuto impatiently. Naruto looked at Sasori for approval, and the redhead nodded in agreement. With a sigh, Naruto started molding chakra. He failed, of course, but he was surprised by the look of concentration on Kabuto's face, like he was trying to see something that wasn't there. In the blink of an eye, Kabuto was beside him, waving a softly glowing arm over Naruto's skin. It tickled. "Take off your shirt," commanded Kabuto. "Sasori-sama, I will need your help. I have very little talent with sealing." Sasori nodded to Kabuto and took his position. Standing with his chest bare while two guys stare at him was intensely embarrassing for Naruto, but he knew their wish to help was sincere. Sasori wouldn't lie to him. He started molding chakra again at Kabuto's prompting, and was surprised at the black spiral that sprung to life on his stomach. This was undoubtedly the infamous seal that bound the Kyuubi inside him. Naruto watched at the seal, mesmerized, dimly aware that both Kabuto and Sasori were staring at the seal as well. Distracted, Naruto allowed his chakra to surge unrestrained, causing his hands to glow with visible light. After several minutes of this, Kabuto and Sasori retreated into the other room to discuss things. Naruto tried to overhear things without being too obvious, but he only caught glimpses of the conversation. Their voices were rapid and full of unknown terms, causing untold difficulties to Naruto when he tried to figure them out. Once upon a time he would have dismissed things he didn't understand as irrelevant, but now he found himself annoyed and frustrated at not understanding what was being said. He would have to increase his vocabulary. Maybe go to the library again, borrow a few more action novels or something. That novel Sasori gave him was pretty good. Finally, they both came back and approached him. "Well, Naruto, you were right," began Sasori. "There is something wrong with your chakra coils, and the Kyuubi is involved." Naruto took a deep breath. He was hoping he was wrong. "Will I ever be able to do jutsu?" he asked in a small voice, unable to look at them anymore. "Of course," said Kabuto. Naruto's head shot back up. "But, you said that there is something wrong with your chakra coils?" "Yes," said Kabuto. "For some reason, Yondan didn't seal Kyuubi away completely. The seal allows minute amounts of Kyuubi's chakra to continually leak into your chakra coils. Though leak is a wrong analogy, push would be more accurate. Human chakra coils are normally full by default, so this constant infusion of Kyuubi's chakra is continually stressing them. This has an effect of stretching your chakra capacity, which is why you develop such massive chakra reserves at such a young age, but it also sends your chakra control awry." "Yeah, Shino told me that bigger chakra reserves." "It's not just that," said Kabuto. "Because of the Kyuubi's chakra pushing into your coils, your chakra is constantly under high pressure, so to speak. That's why, when you start channeling chakra into a technique you find it very difficult to stop, giving you a unique sort of predicament. There is a minimum amount of chakra you can use on a jutsu, and you can only go higher than that." Is there a way around that?" "Well, the simplest solution would be to spend a great deal of chakra before attempting chakra-sensitive jutsus," said Sasori. "After all, if your chakra coils aren't full, they won't be seeking relief by dumping as much chakra as they can at the first chance they get." "But that is so inelegant. We have two much better solutions for you." Naruto swallowed heavily, fidgeting in his place. He didn't say anything. He knew Sasori was just making a dramatic pause so Naruto can gather his thoughts and not be overwhelmed. "You asked me to train you," said Sasori, "and I have every intention of doing that, but there are some things I cannot help you with." "Kabuto can." "You mean, how would you like me to train you as well, Naruto-kun?" asked Kabuto with a smile. Not that I'm not interested, but what can you teach me?" "Chakra control for one," said Kabuto, reaching into his pocket to retrieve two scrolls and threw them to Naruto. Naruto gave him a curious look. "Those are chakra control exercises meant for medic nins," said Kabuto. "Learning those should be enough to compensate for your deficiency." "Wait," said Naruto, eyeing the scrolls. "These are like the leaf exercise, right?" Kabuto nodded. "And they improve chakra control, right?" Kabuto nodded again. "So why isn't everyone required to learn them?" "Because most people don't need them," said Kabuto. "They don't have any other use except improving chakra control, and mastering them eats up a lot of time. Generally, only medic nins and genjutsu masters bother with them. Even you probably won't have to master all of them, just enough to." "I will master them all," said Naruto with an air of finality, "regardless whether I need to or not." "An admirable spirit," said Kabuto, tilting his head so his glasses flashed dangerously in the shadowy atmosphere of the room. "You can never have too much chakra control, in my opinion. But if you're already going to put so much effort into it, why not do a little bit more and reap actual benefits from your hard work?" "What do you mean?" Naruto asked. "How would you like to be a medic nin, Naruto-kun?" Naruto stared at Kabuto, stupefied. "Hey, never even considered the idea." "Being a medic nin is hard work," Kabuto said suddenly, jolting Naruto out of his thoughts. "At least, that's what people say. The truth is that it just requires exceptional chakra control and a great deal of knowledge about human anatomy. Since you're already going to master all those exercises, well, it would be a shame for that skill to go to waste just because you didn't want to read a few textbooks and attend a lesson or two with me. Besides, it's not like you have anything better to do with your time," reminded Sasori. Naruto sighed. He didn't really know if he wanted to this, but clearly he had walked into this one, and it's not like he had anyone to teach him something more to his liking. "Fine," he said. "I accept. You've made a good decision, Naruto-kun," said Kabuto. Right. Anyway, what about that other thing you wanted to tell me about?" "I can place a blocking seal on top of the one binding Kyuubi," said Sasori. "This will stop the Kyuubi's chakra from mingling with your own and allow you to develop your chakra control without a handicap." That's great, said Naruto, jumping up. What are you waiting for? Do it. Well, Yonde must have had some reason to allow the Kyubai's chakra to mingle with your own. He could have easily prevented any mixing at all, yet he did not. I suspect the mixing allows you to draw upon the Kyubai's chakra with enough practice. If I block the mixing, you will not be able to access that. The question is, what do you want more, unrestrained power from the Kyubai or better chakra control so you can rely on your abilities? It was a loaded question, but Naruto didn't care. Whatever boons the fox could give him, he didn't want them. Like I said, what are you waiting for? Do it already. Sasori smirked. I'll need a few days to make preparations. In the meantime, Kabuto and I will begin training you. You will start your training with Kabuto today, and you and I will work out a schedule tomorrow morning. I bid you goodbye now. Behave yourself. And thus Naruto was left alone with Kabuto. Though somewhat suspicious, he was calmed by the leaf headband on Kabuto's forehead and the fact that Sasori vouched for him. It began. So, what now? Naruto watched as Kabuto's hand started to glow, coated with a haze of teal light. This is medical chakra, said Kabuto. It is the basis of 99% of all medic nin's techniques. Notice I put emphasis on techniques, like there is something wrong with it. This is because medical techniques don't work like regular ninjutsu techniques. Instead of having to know the correct hand seals, you have to possess correct medical knowledge that will tell you just where do you want to direct medical chakra and what would you have it do once it gets there. Simply knowing how to produce medical chakra is useless without the knowledge of the patient's body and how to heal it. So that it? Asked Naruto incredulously. That one jutsu is all there is to being a medic nin. No, said Kabuto. But most of the time you'll be using this one. The other ones are intended for combat usage. Naruto immediately perked up on this, causing Kabuto to chuckle. I see you're interested in fighting, Naruto-kun, said Kabuto. That's good. Too many ninjas choose the profession of medic nin in the hopes they will be able to avoid direct confrontation, which is rather foolish. Medic nins are commonly sent on the front lines in any conflict, and the enemy will specifically and sensibly target medic nins at any opportunity they get. It is imperative that any potential medic nin not be defenseless, else they will not live long. But do not worry, Naruto-kun, I will make sure you are capable of protecting yourself. Naruto returned Kabuto's smile, foreboding as it was. Now then, said Kabuto, producing another scroll out of his pocket. This one was a storage scroll, and Kabuto pressed his hand on it, unsealing a corpse. Naruto looked at the body in front of him. At first he thought it was something else, maybe an elaborate puppet, but the more he looked at it the more certain he was that he's looking at a dead body. He felt sick. Shall we start cutting? Said Kabuto, clearly amused by Naruto's reaction. Kabuto-san, protested Naruto. You can't seriously. As a medic nin, you will see plenty of dead bodies, said Kabuto in that pleasant voice of his. You may even be asked to perform autopsies on them. And in any case, I'm of the opinion that you don't know human anatomy until you've cut one open and dug around in their innards. It's a mystery to me, really. You wouldn't call yourself a taijutsu specialist if all you've done is read about taijutsu and theory scrolls, but so many people think they can be medic nins without getting their hands dirty. Now onto the cutting. Unable to help himself, Naruto ran into the nearby bathroom and emptied his stomach. Break. How was your lesson with Kabuto? Asked Sasori, his voice laced with amusement. Fine, said Naruto, suppressing the urge to wipe that self-satisfied smirk off Sasori's face. He would fail, and Sasori would be even more amused. Besides, Sasori was going to teach him something awesome, so he gets a little leeway when it comes to things like this. Hey, can you teach me sealing first? I heard sealing is awesome, and all the greatest ninja had it, and as a matter of fact, yes, said Sasori, handing him 2 scrolls. Looking over them, Naruto could tell they were some dry technical texts on sealing. Just reading the titles made Naruto feel a little sleepy. Sasori, asked Naruto in annoyance. You aren't expecting me to read this stuff, are you? Yes, I do. I will be giving you lessons in person, of course, but I will be giving you tasks to do in your own time. Read and comprehend both by our next meeting. Sasori, this is bullshit. What's the point of these things? They're sealing texts. I thought it was self-explanatory. No, it isn't. Look, there is nothing here about inscribing arrays. Of course not. You have to learn the theory behind sealing before I teach you how to make them. Naruto snorted. Theory this, theory that. Everyone is trying to teach me theory before we get to the real stuff. I've got a book to read about taijutsu from Uruka, anatomy textbooks from Kabuto, and now this. At this rate all I'll be doing in my free time is read. Screw theory. Isn't there some kind of a shortcut? Of course there is, said Sasori calmly. You could learn how to make standardized seals. They don't require any theory to learn, just memorize the proper arrays and you're done. You'd have to find someone willing to teach you, however, because I certainly won't. Naruto frowned. Why not? Because it's a waste of both of our potential. You could become the best seal master since the Yondaime, but that will never happen unless you actually know what you're doing. Blindly copying other people's work can make you decently skilled, but to truly excel you have to be a creator, an artist. As for me, I am not in the business of churning out worthless copycats. If that's what you want, find someone else to teach you. Naruto was not happy. He screamed and threatened and begged, but Sasori would not give in. Finally, Naruto told him the unpleasant truth. Even if he wanted to go along with Sasori's plan, he just couldn't. He just didn't have that kind of patience at all. Thing is, Naruto, said Sasori, you have only a year and a half before you graduate. Once you do, your free time will diminish considerably. You don't have enough time to take it easy. So I have a proposal. It is a radical proposal and requires that you have a great deal of trust in me. Do you trust me, Naruto? Oh, yeah, I guess, said Naruto carefully. What kind of proposal? Over the years I have developed a class of seals that affect the minds of humans they are placed on, said Sasori. I call them personality seals. Depending on their purposes, they can lock away certain memories or implant fake ones and radically alter people's personality. One such seal is a focus persona seal, which would allow you enter a state of mind where you can single-mindedly pursue an activity, never growing bored or discouraged. Wow, said Naruto. So, the seal makes me smarter. No, the seal increases your attention span and allows you to focus on really dry subject matter, like those theoretical manuals I've given you. It makes boring tasks seem endlessly interesting and productive, allowing you to persist in doing them long after other people would have given up. That's why it's called a personality seal, and not a mind enhancement one. It lets you study longer, not faster. Naruto's face twisted in a sour expression. That sounds rather creepy. I can go back to what I were before, right? Of course, the focus state isn't something you want to have active all the time. There is such a thing as being too patient and focused in everyday life, believe it or not. It's basically a crutch, use it only when you have to. Right, said Naruto. I'll do it. Give me the seal. I'll give it to you when I prepare the overlay for the Kyuubi seal. Right now, we should begin with our lesson. Break. Now Naruto, you're still holding your arm too stiffly. You have to. Oh come on Iruka, get on with it already, protested Naruto. What does it matter if I got some minor detail wrong? It's the most important thing of everything I'm teaching you, said Iruka gravely. I can't stress this enough during class because I can devote only so much to any single student, but basic principles, proper stances, flow of movement, and timing are the most important things you can learn as far as taijutsu is concerned. If you can master these basic principles, a lot of common attack patterns simply won't work on you, with little active effort on your part. And besides, when you get decent at the basics you can make up moves on the fly, which is something you seem to be fond of. Except that at that point those moves will actually work. Naruto pouted. But we've been doing this for 3 weeks already. I could recite this stuff in my sleep by now. I know, okay. Intellectually, maybe, said Iruka, but your body clearly hasn't learned the lesson. You need to develop muscle memory and accustom your joints and ligaments to stresses of hand-to-hand combat. The only way to effectively teach that is through constant drilling and sparring. Well, maybe you should take our spars a little more serious then, protested Naruto. You're so slow. It's obvious you're holding back. Of course I'm holding back. What would be the point to press the attack when you are clearly open? The purpose of our sparring is for me to teach you, not take advantage of your lack of skill and experience to beat the crap out of you. You have Shino for that. Naruto glared at Iruka, not willing to answer. Iruka was right, of course. Shino absolutely demolished him every time they sparred, but Naruto didn't like mentioning it. Personally, Naruto couldn't understand why Shino was behind Sasuke and Kiba in the official taijutsu ranking. Though the obvious answer was that the Aburame was holding back against fellow students for some reason. Look Naruto, Iruka began, your reactions need to become totally automatic, because that is the foundation upon which all those fancy moves you like so much are built. There is no point in learning some awesome maneuver if you can't steer a battle into a situation where you can use it, and the only reason you can do the acrobatics you do now is because no one is really fighting you seriously. You can't think up creative strategies in the thick of a real battle, because thinking takes time, and if the other person is trying to kill you, that's time you don't have. Unless you have allies to give you a breather, that is, but do you really want to depend on your teammates that much? Naruto frowned. He couldn't do that. It wasn't cool to rely on others, and besides, there was a very real chance that he could find himself with a teammate that wouldn't mind seeing him dead one way or another. Basics, huh? Asked Naruto quietly. Absolutely, said Iruka. In fact, I would go so far as to say that in most areas of life, not just taijutsu, mastery of the basics beats poorly grounded techniques every time. Sounds like Iruka all right. I suppose if you aimed merely to be a good ninja, you could afford yourself some leeway, continued Iruka after some thought. But you want to be Hokage, right? A Hokage cannot have any easily exploitable weakness like that. Naruto straightened himself. Of course. How could he have been so stupid? All this time he was thinking about what a drag it is to do these things over and over again till he got them right, but that was a completely wrong attitude. If he was to become the next Hokage, he couldn't afford to be merely good enough, he had to be the best there is. There is going to be no fix-all jutsu that will give him a needed edge, no opportunity to fall into his lap. He took a deep breath and took the stance again. Iruka-sensei, let's continue. Break. For the next 4 months Naruto spent his free time reading an endless stream of sealing and anatomy texts, punctuated by the inevitably creepy sessions with Kabuto and Sasori's lectures about a variety of topics. Sasori didn't test him in any overt manner, but somehow he always knew when Naruto skirted the lesson, and his displeasure was as harsh as a shower of needles. Literally, curse his puppets, curse them all to hell. When not scrambling to meet Sasori's deadlines, Naruto continued working on the chakra control exercises, his remedial classes with Iruka, and his spars with Shino. He even talked Sasori into letting him test his accuracy against his puppets instead of static targets. It was a lot more challenging, and a lot more infuriating. Sasori usually read a book while controlling 3 puppets simultaneously with one hand and dodging almost everything Naruto threw at them. Hell, Naruto once tried targeting Sasori, but the puppets defended the puppeteer so masterfully that Naruto eventually found himself back to a tree with all 3 puppets beating the crap out of him. And not once did Sasori stop reading. In retrospect, pulling off that stunt was pretty stupid of him, because nowadays the puppets occasionally fired back at Naruto when he was practicing on them, probably to keep him from considering similarly harebrained ideas. Generally speaking, his schedule was pretty hectic. After all, Naruto lived alone. He had to buy everything he needed himself, had to wash his own clothes, nag the landlord to fix the utilities, take out the trash, do the dishes, and clean his own apartment. He had to attend the academy and work at Sasori's store. All those things ate up time and, perhaps more insidiously, broke up the continuity he really needed to lose himself in training. Thank God for the focus seal. If it weren't for it, Naruto doubted he could preserve his sanity. With so little free time, Naruto didn't perform much in the way of pranks, much to Iruka's joy. Instead, he took up reading various novels. They were a rather fun way to pass the time, which is why he took up reading them during class, much to Iruka's displeasure. "You have done exceptionally well," said Sasori. "I am happy to say that your lessons will advance to another level." "All right," shouted Naruto. "What is it? What will you teach me?" Sasori reached into his pocket and retrieved a piece of paper. "You will be doing origami," said Sasori flatly, staring directly into Naruto's eyes. You could hear a metaphorical pin drop from 5 meters away. "Oh, come on," exploded Naruto. "Now you're just making fun of me." "Not at all," said Sasori calmly. "Origami will help you develop manual dexterity that you'll need as a puppeteer." "But I'm not even sure if I want to be a puppeteer," protested Naruto. "Come on, why don't you teach me some real sealing instead?" "Sorry," said Sasori. "If you want me to teach you sealing, you will have to learn puppeteering as well. It's a package deal." "You suck." "Perhaps. Now watch." Despite his annoyance, Naruto watched mesmerized as Sasori started rapidly folding the paper between his fingers. The interesting thing was that he only used one hand and didn't set the paper down on any flat surface. He used only his fingers. In less than 10 seconds, Naruto was looking at a paper crane in Sasori's palm. "How do you do that?" "Practice," said Sasori. "But anyway, that's what you'll be doing in your free time." Free time. Free time. Naruto was starting to forget what those words even meant, and he wants to dump more obligations on him. "At our meetings," continued Sasori, "we'll start working on chakra strings and tinkering with simple puppets. But first, a little history." Naruto sighed and engaged his focus seal. There was no point in complaining. "As I'm sure I already told you, puppeteering is a demanding art, and used to be even harder. This is mostly because of the difficulty of actually creating a puppet." Sasori flicked open a scroll, unsealing a 4-armed puppet between him and Naruto. "Though it looks deceptively simple, each puppet is an extremely complex work of engineering and sealing," continued Sasori. "Sealing?" asked Naruto incredulously. "Yes. In order to control a lifeless object with the kind of precision a puppeteer needs, one needs to lace the puppet with various control seals, anchors for chakra strings, weapon compartment activators, limb controls, and so on. Obviously, since genin don't have sufficient chakra reserves to utilize sealing effectively, they cannot really make their own puppets. As a consequence, puppeteering was rare and obscure in the past. One needed to be quite powerful before they could start dabbling in it. And every puppet was a unique creation that you had to learn how to handle on a case-to-case basis." Sasori pointed at the puppet between them, causing its chest to open. Naruto yelped in surprise, but Sasori ignored him. "That was until I created 7 types of customizable puppets. This is one of them." The control seals for each type of puppet were simplified and standardized, so one doesn't have to be a sealing master to make them, as long as they have the blueprints. They don't have the flexibility and power of a specialized, non-standard puppet, but they're very friendly for beginners. The controls are relatively straightforward and there is a lot of redundancy. "Follow me so far?" Naruto nodded. It was likely the focus seal, but it sounded rather interesting. Sasori flipped the puppet open and pointed at a tiny black spot on one of the arms. "This is an anchor seal. It allows you to attach a chakra string to a puppet. So you can't just attach it anywhere." "Of course not. If you could do that, puppeteering would be the least of the uses of chakra strings. You need an anchor seal to create a chakra string. In any case, we won't bother with chakra strings until you develop your manual dexterity a bit. For now, I want you to familiarize yourself with the physical construction of a puppet. Here." Sasori proceeded to unseal a pile of puppet parts to the left of the puppet. "This is a puppet identical to the first one, only taken apart. I want you to put it back together. Feel free to consult the intact puppet as a reference. Think of it as a puzzle." Naruto sighed before getting down to work. It was truly fortunate that nobody was observing him, because he would have died if somebody knew he was playing with dolls. "Break." "Okay Naruto, we'll take a short break. Your taijutsu is starting to get somewhat decent, but you're still attacking blindly. Your attack patterns lack variation and you're charging in without a strategic purpose. If you really want to become kick-ass at taijutsu as you've put it, you can't put your brain completely at autopilot in a fight. Haruka glanced towards Naruto as he continued with the lecture. The blonde was listening on the edge of his seat with rapt attention. His azure blue eyes burned with such intensity that Haruka nearly flinched back when the eyes met for a moment. Naruto seemed to be devouring every word he said. It made him feel incredibly self-conscious and, well, oh hell, it was creepy as hell. And it wasn't the first time Haruka noticed this behavior either. During their remedial classes, Naruto would be his cheerful person one moment only to quiet down and focus as soon as Haruka started talking to demonstrating things. Really focus. He would perform taijutsu katas with an almost machine-like zeal, not saying anything. At the time, Haruka attributed it to Shino's influence, since the Aburame behaved similarly, but he was no longer so sure. And at least Shino was consistent. But Haruka was reluctant to complain, since Naruto's improvement was absolutely stellar. His taijutsu had advanced by leaps and bounds, and he could finally perform the clone technique. Now if only Naruto could focus like that while in class, instead of reading novels and doing origami, of all things. It's nice that he got some new hobbies beside pranks, but must he indulge in them during lectures? Naruto, are you okay? The blonde shook his head for a moment before his expression softened. Yeah, why? You just seemed a bit out there, that's all. You know, we've been at this pretty intensely, maybe we could take a break and… No, said Naruto immediately, cutting him off. We don't have any time to waste. Come on Naruto, you have to relax sometime. I do, at night, sleeping. Haruka sighed in annoyance. I meant that you shouldn't ignore your social life, Naruto. What social life? I have only one friend my age, and he's not exactly the hanging out type. Oh fine, I give up, said Haruka with resignation. Just so you know, I'm really proud of you, Naruto. Maybe you really are going to be the next Hokage. Naruto's face split open in a toothy grin, and Haruka felt his worries melt away. It's still the same old Naruto. Break. After 2 months of tinkering with various puppets and folding paper animals, Sasori decided that Naruto merited a reward, specifically being taught some actual sealing arrays. Explosive notes and storage scrolls were the poster children for sealing arts. They were relatively simple to make and certainly simple to use, and extremely effective. As Naruto found out, however, the ones found in stores were merely the standardized versions of explosive seals and storage seals respectively. And Sasori intended to teach him more than that. Something that turned out to be surprisingly painless, considering that Naruto had been studying sealing theory for the past 6 months. Really, those 2 types of seals were easy. The various ways to tweak and supplement them were not. As annoying it was to try over and over to make an explosive seal that explodes exactly 5 seconds after activation, activates when touched physically, channels the explosion in a narrow area, initiates a chain reaction with other explosive seals, and a multitude of other effects, he had to admit it was more fun than poring over theoretical texts. And storage scrolls would be useful in everyday life as well. Missions, no more sore arms after buying groceries. Another good thing was that he could make a small fortune selling explosive notes and sealing scrolls to stores. Those things was expensive, seeing how one had to have massive chakra reserves to produce them in any appreciable quantity. He didn't do so, of course. It would definitely attract attention to him if he suddenly flooded the market for sealing products, and he didn't need this kind of drama right now. Besides, the money he got from doing Sasori's paperwork was more than enough for now. It was at times like these that he couldn't help wonder why he's so secretive about Sasori and his training. Instinctively, he knew he must not draw attention to it and should not tell anyone unless cornered. But intellectually, he couldn't figure out what frightened him so much about the old man or the academy instructors knowing he's getting help from Sasori. The redhead wasn't doing anything wrong, was he? Even Sasori merely suggested that they keep their familiarity secret, not violently ordered him not to tell anyone. But Naruto trusted his instincts more than he did his intellect, and his instincts were quite clear that telling anyone about Sasori would be capital B bad idea. And what really worried him was that nobody discovered anything by now. It's not like he was trying to keep things secret all that much. He stopped doing pranks, didn't pester Sakura and Sasuke anymore. His grades got better. He didn't shout his desire to become Hokage at random people anymore. And after some initial shock, everybody just shrugged and went on their way. Haruka had stopped inviting him to Ikaraku anymore. He didn't have a visit from the old man in the last 3 months, and his classmates no longer even looked twice at him for the most part. It was as if he fell under people's radar now that he wasn't disruptive. Everyone had better things to do with their time than worry about him, it seemed. That just wouldn't do. Maybe he should reward himself with a nice juicy prank for being so damn good. Something bold. Something that would show people that the king of pranks is still in the game. And he knew just the thing. Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.